So when we talk about who, I kind of look at this as like, who's your tribe? Who are the people that God has put in your life, the people that you want to serve, the people that you want to give your efforts to? And so there's several different segments of people that I would put in the who category. And first thing I want to start off with, that Peter Drucker quote that we mentioned yesterday, is that your network determines your net worth. There is a lot of truth to this, unfortunately, in some circumstances, and unfortunately in others. So it's really important for us to have an ever-expanding network. When I think about the network, I kind of look at it like a ripple effect, or like rings. At the core, at the center of your network is your top 50. So yesterday, Tracy, you asked about how many people are in your database, like how many should be. And I said 250 would be a great place to start and to target. 20% of your top 250, or 20% of your 250 is your top 50. So no matter if you had 500 or 750 or 1,000 contacts, I really would like for your attention to be on your top 50. The top 50, I qualify those as the people you're going to bet your career on. If these people do not refer to you, if these people don't know you, if these people don't use you, it's going to be really hard to be in business and have a long-term career. So I would say no matter how broad you go in your number of people in your database, my encouragement is to go as deep as you possibly can with 50 people. I think 50 is a very manageable number. You may, let's say for talking purposes, Jessica, you may have a girl that you're friends with and she has a husband. I would group them into the top 50 as a couple. So the top 50 may be a little bit more expansive than that, but I mean, if I would pick the individual that you're the closest with, but also stay focused on if they're married or they have a partner. So from there, you will have clients, and you have past clients, you have current clients. So the reason I would focus on the client database next is because these people, in a sense, have voted on you once before. They've sampled the sauce. Like they'll say, hey, you know, I've worked with you. You're a good person. You're somebody that I can advocate for. So those client databases would be your next ring. From there, you have your general database. So if you have 250 people or 500 people in your database, you're going to communicate them in a very general way. Next is prospecting. And so prospecting is starting to be your 1 degree of separation. You may not have a relationship with them yet, but there's someone that you want to be in a relationship. They may not be someone that you know, but they're someone that you could know. So prospecting is pretty much 1 degree of separation from your top 50, from your past client database, and from your general database. From there is business development. We're going to spend a little bit of time today talking about the importance of business development. Our industry primarily focuses on one-to-one, like who do you know, like, and trust? Who's my friend? I want to talk to my friend. I really think there needs to be an element in your business to where you do business-to-business sales. If you want to have your business grow geometrically, this is probably one of the easiest ways to do that, is to get what I would consider a channel account. A channel account is someone or at a company, or a company that can send you a pipeline of business. Misty, I mean, she has a company that sends her a pipeline of business, and that really is a pretty predictable lead source for her throughout the year. So I would love to see each of you to have a channel account that sends you a predictable pipeline of business. It may be let's say it's a financial planner that sends their clients. It doesn't have to be a company, but that came through business development efforts. This is not necessarily a personal relationship. This is very business oriented. One more quick point on the business development. Whenever you're doing your prospecting to business development, you really want to start to think in terms of, what is the value that I can add to their company? What is the value that I can add to their customer base? What's the value that I can add to their employees? So you're being a little bit more strategic, and whenever you're having those meetings, you're not really looking to be referred leads as much as you are looking to just a problem. So for example, let's say there's a company that has an employee benefits program for their employees, and they do dental, they do eye, they do healthcare, they have some 401k package. A company that has an HR department that's focused on employee benefits, it'd be great to have an employee benefit program as it relates to real estate, as it relates to mortgage, as it relates to homeowners or homeowners insurance. So you can be creative and think in terms of, okay, if this company, I wonder how many people that they've hired, maybe I could help them from a relocation standpoint. So be thinking about what is the problem that you can solve for those folks, and make sure that you're speaking to them in terms of the benefit to the organization, the benefit to their client base. And then the last is your farming neighborhood. So wherever you live, there's a group of people that you have proximity with. And so it may be like a defined neighborhood like Fieldstone Farms that is very clear whether you're in Fieldstone Farms or you're not, or it may be in an area like the Nolensville Pike area. And it's not really a defined neighborhood, but it's a geographic area. So wherever you live, it's really important for you to define who is in that farming neighborhood. And the very first activity that I would suggest is to go on the tax records and pull a CSV file of exactly what are the addresses that you're going to commit to communicating with on a consistent basis. We're going to talk about the strategy of that communication, but I'm trying to give you a sample size. So let's say for talking purposes, you have a farming neighborhood and you have 350 addresses. You have a business development, you have 50 targets that you're targeting the next year. Let's say that you have a prospecting list of 25 people. Let's say that it's your Dawson, if you identified your high school friends and you said, okay, in my Facebook, here's my high school friends. Yes, I know them, but I don't know their parents. And I want to start to make an intentional effort to get to know their parents or get to know their siblings. They were in a grade up or their grades down. I don't really know them that well, but I'm going to start to prospect and get in relationship with people who are already connected. So you may set a prospecting target of 25 or 50 people. From there, your general database. A lot of times people who build their database, they kind of get to a number that they feel 100's enough, or oh, you know what, 200's enough. I feel like that from a starting point, however many Facebook friends you have or however many contacts you have in your phone, they've already said yes to your friend request or you said yes to their friend request. If you have their number, you already have a pretty general database. It may take you some time to start to go through your Facebook list and start to send direct messages, and maybe you're just cut and pasting like, hey friend, it's been a while since we've talked. I'm working on my database. I'd love to get your mailing address. Some people respond, some people won't, but you need to start to work to create that database. You already have a great starting point. You already have a clearly defined list in terms of the names. Now we need to start to fill in the blanks from phone number, email address, and address, date of birth. So that could be anywhere from 250 to that could be up to a couple thousand. From there, your client database, look at your past clients, look at your current clients, look at your lead pipeline, and this list should be ever growing. And then your top 50 is pretty explanatory. So in this list right here, it's very easy that you may have anywhere from 500 to 1,000 to a couple thousand people that this is who I'm going to talk to. So when we talk about who we're going to connect with, and yesterday we talked about what we do with them, now we're going to talk about how do we take the phone, the email, the mail, and then this audience and start to communicate with them in a very specific way. So when we think about lead generation, the reason why we want to put so much attention on your database and on your contacts is because it's the top of your funnel. From there, you're going to start to set appointments. You're going to start to make calls. You're going to start to invite people to events. You're going to start to communicate with them in many different ways. Those appointments and calls then are going to produce leads. If you're not connecting with your database, it's going to be very hard to produce leads. One of the leads that came yesterday was a friend of mine that I invited to go to Tony Robbins' event. This was several years ago, and she had gone with our group a number of times, and I had sold her Tony Robbins tickets, and man, she got really fired up about Tony Robbins, and it's really benefited her life. Well, she has now referred someone that needs to sell their house. Well, that would have never had happened had I not had someone in my contact, had I not had communicated with them, even to invite them to a Tony Robbins event. That a couple, I guess the last event was like 2 or 3 years ago that I'm not going to say the event produced the lead, but the top of mind awareness to have someone to connect with did. So it would have been very easy for me to have lost touch with them. She was actually on my kickball team probably 15 years ago out of college. So it would have been very easy to lose contact with someone who played on a kickball team 50 years ago. So the point being is you get to decide your level of connectivity with people. So I want us to think about who are our contacts, what are the appointments and calls that we're making, and then how do we produce and capture leads from that. When we produce and capture leads, there is going to be a percentage of dropout from lead to actual client, but there's going to be clients that come from the leads. From the clients, we're going to have a signed agreement that they're going to agree to work with you. And unfortunately, there are times to where things just don't work out and someone says, you know what, let's take our house off the market. I don't think we want to sell it. Johnny, you told me this morning that you're having dinner with a friend that has tried to sell his house a couple times and it hasn't worked out for him. So they've taken it off the market. So there's sometimes things that just don't work out. Yeah, we're going to sign an agreement with you. We're going to list it, but it didn't work out. So they never actually got a contract that led to close. So as you know, there's contracts that fall through periodically. And so you have to think in terms of if I want to sell one house, there is stages in which closing that house is going to happen. So what we're focused on right now is the top of the funnel, the top stage. If we don't focus on this, this will happen haphazard and sporadic. It will happen pretty infrequently. So let's talk about your top 50. Your top 50, I said earlier, this is the group of people that you're going to bet your career on. If they don't take care of you, if you don't take care of them, your career could flounder or have a failure to start. So your top 50 are the people you're going to bet your career on. Your advocates. They're willing and able to help you grow your business. So whenever you select your top 50, here's a pro tip. Do not select your best friends. Do not select the people that you spend the most time with. Do not select the people that you feel the most comfortable with. Because a lot of times, if you're like me, your comfort level with someone may take the edge off of the business relationship. It's like, we're friends. They'll remember me. Your top 50, like when you go to work daily, your top 50 this is a business list. These people, not only do I have a connection with them, but they also have the ability and they're willing to refer. They're willing to make introductions. They're willing to be an advocate. So I have some very, very, very close friends that I love deeply that are definitely not on my top 50 list because that's just not the way that they're wired when it comes to business, when it comes to referrals. Would they use me if they sold their house or bought a house? Yeah, they probably would. But they don't think in terms of mutual beneficial relationships and helping people get ahead in life. And so anyone who, like a financial planners, they understand reciprocity, they understand referrals, they understand mutually beneficial relationships, they understand prospecting. Some people are wired to connect, some people are wired to introduce, some people are wired to refer, and some people are not. So when we think about our top 50 list, don't take the path of least resistance. Like, I know this person. We're friends. Yeah, yes, you may have some close friends, but I really want to make sure that when you choose your list, you choose it wisely through the lens. This person is an influencer. They're connected. They are in the mix of it. They have great pace. They have great energy. They are most likely to refer. So you choose your list wisely. Once a year, we'll talk about this, but once a year, my recommendation is to evaluate that top 50 list and see who really has performed and done well in terms of their advocacy of your business. And this is a two-way street, by the way. And then who needs to be replaced. So you may get to the end of the year like, these 12, it just really was I spent a lot of effort and time in building my business with them. And I sowed into their life. It wasn't a two-way street, and that's fine. We can still spend time and enjoy one another on the weekend or after business hours or when I see them. But when I'm in business hours, I'm not going to make them as much of a focus or as much of a priority because the seeds didn't produce fruit. Some seeds do, some seeds don't. But the ones that I've got a guy that has not been in my top 50 ever, but in the last 6 months, he for probably ever will be in my top 50 because of his level of introductions and his intensity about referrals. He's very clear in his asks of me. I'm like, man, hey, we're speaking the same language. Like we're starting to trade contact information. We're starting to send each other stuff that's of value. We're starting to give each other ideas. We're starting to go to breakfast and like, hey, I want you to look at my business plan. What do you think? What do you think? Like, man, I'm so glad I met this guy. This guy for sure is in my top 50, which means someone's got to move out. So your top 50 will not be changing all the time, but I do think that there needs to be a level of perspective. This is through the lens exclusively of business. This is not your buddies. This is not your wedding list. This is like exclusively business. And so that list needs to be top graded periodically. Top 50 are also influential people who refer strongly. Weak people refer poorly. So choose influential people to be in your top 50. And then third and last, you have to know your top 50's goals. And you're actively working to help them accomplish those goals. So you're 100% invested in these people's lives. So this relationship, I've said this, it needs to be mutually beneficial. So you got top 50 people, you need to be asking them, hey, what is your goals? What is your dreams? Tell me specifically what you need in your business. Tell me specifically in your life, what can I do to help you? What can I do to add value to you? You're as invested in their life as you want them invested in yours. So this is not looking to take, this is looking to give. So when I say mutually beneficial, you may be giving, so and so, but if it's not coming back, we can still be friends. We can still be close friends, but you're not on the top 50 list. So if you were to go to lunch with Ashley Cherry, you say, okay, I'm going to go to lunch with you. This is going to be an intentional lunch. I've got some people I want to introduce you to. Who could you introduce me to? What are you looking to do in your business? I want to help you in your business. Here's what I'm looking to do in my business. I mean, there is like, we're swapping. We're here to help one another in the lunch. So that would be an example of a top 50 relationship that you would absolutely want to lean into with complete specificity. So when we talk about top 50, yesterday we said how we use our phone, our face-to-face, and email. So I want to take each of those groups when we talk about who we want to connect with, and I want to give you, in a sense, a buffet of how we could use different platforms to connect with our top 50. So in your phone, I think that you should be calling 5 to 10 of these people every single week, which means you're going to talk to them at least 6 to 12 times a year. You get to decide if you want to talk to them once a month. You get to decide if you want to talk to them every other month. But I strongly suggest you talking to them at least once every other month. So that would be the first thing. So if you haven't built your list, it's going to be even hard to keep track of this. So the next thing is face-to-face. I would say every single week, you need to be working through your top 50 list that you're meeting with 5 of them face-to-face every single week. So whenever you're planning your week, you should be looking at the week ahead and planning for the week ahead, the 2 weeks ahead, and going ahead and scheduling your meeting with these people a week or two ahead. That way, when you get to Monday morning, you're like, okay, look at my list. Let me find out who I can meet with 5 of these people this week. No, go ahead and just plan out your month. The next thing is, by the way, you should have met with your top 50 at least 4 to 6 times a year, one-on-one. 6 times a year to have a deep, meaningful relationship doesn't seem like a lot, but I'm talking about the business side. These are very intentional conversations. Then we go to email. They should be a part of your weekly report. If you want to send an update, I think the National Business Journal does better than many real estate companies in regards to communicating real estate data. The GNAR website, the TAR website has a lot of information out there. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to stand out as a thought leader. So giving them weekly reports that you're pulling, and it could be just a simple article. You want to make sure that you're staying, it is a relationship business, but there's a bit of an edge on sophistication in data and information that they don't feel like you're just a relationship only person. So your weekly report, your monthly newsletter, and then every single 6 months, if you're not emailing them a CMA every single 6 months, I think you're failing the top 50. So I would like to see a CMA every single 6 months go out via email. My suggestion would be to, in a sense, type up a paragraph or a few sentences at the top. Hey, friend, below is a CMA specifically for your house. You'll see price per square foot, notice the days in the market. Some people are looking for a home equity line of credit. Some people are thinking about doing improvements on their house. Some people are trying to get their mortgage interest at 80-20%. So these reports help many different clients in many different ways. But I want to provide this to you as a resource. If you have any questions, let me know. So you type up a template paragraph at the top, attach their CMA below it. That way it makes it faster. You can just stamp these things out. So if you don't have a top 50 list, if you don't have their address, it's going to be really hard to do the CMA. You're going to send the CMA week 1, and then the next week you're going to follow up with all of them on your phone call. So you're calling, hey, I sent you an email. Not that you had to respond to me. I just want to see if you had a chance to review it, if you had any questions. No, I haven't, but let me look at it and get back with you. Or yes, I have. I actually did have a couple questions. Did that house down the road from me really sell? Let me pull up my computer and see which one are you referring to? There was a few people. There was a few homes. Yeah, it did. Wow. I mean, Mel, we talked about McKay's Mill this morning. Wow, if it really sold for that, I'm going to sell my house. I mean, like I absolutely will sell my house if that's what it's going to sell for. So you're going to be able to use that CMA to start to have meaningful conversations that I would hope that leads to a face-to-face meeting.
Do you guys send a single page CMA and RealTracs, or do you do like the fancy one with all the pictures?
I just do the single page. I'm trying to create a conversation. And so sometimes you can over communicate till there's no need for a conversation. So yeah, single page. Yeah, you may send the I guess they call it the buyer link where you can see all the photographs, but like the fancy data and everything, I just send CMA and here's the listings, active, under contract. I want you to think about it like this. If there was another agent who had your top 50 on their list and they're sending that type of information over time, how would you feel if your friends are getting that type of information over and over and over and over and over again? You're like, dang it, they're talking to my friends better than I am.
It's like when you cringe a postcard in your mailbox of an agent who's soliciting you and giving you down on the neighborhood, right? And it's like, how dare you? This is my neighborhood.
Well, my friend the other day that told me that he's like, man, my next door neighbor sold their house and they got a crazy number for it. And I've had realtors, I think he said like 4 or 5 realtors reach out to him and ask him would he be willing to sell their house, his house. And he told me, he goes, man, I gave him a number. If you pay me $450, I'll move. So when he said that, I was like, dang it. I should know every one of my past clients what their make me move number is. I should know every single one of my top 50 clients what their make me move is. Because if I don't know that number and someone else does that number, I may lose that sale just because I never asked their number. You know, and he's getting peppered with calls and he's actually giving someone a number that I didn't even find out myself. That happened to me last week. And then I saw him last week and I saw him again Wednesday and he brought it up again on Wednesday. And I'm like, it wasn't really, it wasn't even about him like, oh man, I'm going to put him on a list. It was almost like, that has to be happening to my top 50. That has to be happening to my past clients. There is realtors that are probably doing a really good job of reaching out to my clients. Do you have a number? My client's interested in buying your house. And they don't even necessarily have to have a relationship. But if they give them a number and I don't know the number, shame on me. You know, if someone is starting to send my top 50 a CMA every single 6 months and I haven't, oh man. Top of mind, you're dropping off the list. So I want to make sure, like, I may not get to my general database, I may not get to my farming, but I am not going to lose on my top 50. I am going to make sure that I know this. That's why I start off the core. And remember yesterday I said some people are at different seasons of life. Some people can give more of their time towards their business to grow. Some people are just not there. Pick the top 50 has to be the core. You cannot miss on this. Then it gets to your clients. You cannot miss on that. You may be soft on the other things, or you may say, I'm going full bore on everything. So I'm trying to lay this out as a buffet to say, okay, what are you going to do? But your top 50, you cannot miss on this. If someone else is mailing your people, if someone's talking to your people, if someone's having those meaningful conversations, if someone's looking to establish a mutually beneficial relationship with Ashley, wait, that's somebody that I know that's a financial planner. You know, I want to make sure that I have established that relationship with her. So for each of us, we may have people that are starting to bubble up to mind. And so the point being is your top 50, when you say bet your career on them, I better be doing these things as a foundation. If I'm not, I'm going to lose my lunch money.
Can you suggest for sure mail with the CMA?
Email.
Okay, email.
Yeah, right here. Email, CMail. Yeah, email CMA every 6 months. Up with a call. So start to think about this as baby steps. What I've prescribed here is email a CMA, but I want you to take it a step farther. I can't, there ain't enough slides to write. Okay, emailed and called, and I want you to email them first every 6 months. Then I want you to call the next week and ask them, do they want to talk through it and how that impacts. So you're going to pull it up and you're going to call them. If you don't catch them, hey, I just want to call and see if you got my email last week. I sent you a CMA. You know, as I said, it could be helpful for your mortgage insurance to have that dropped off. It could be helpful for you if you're getting a home equity line of credit. You may be thinking about doing repairs, and maybe like if we do these repairs, will it be worth more? Or you may just be blown away by the number. You want to like, man, if somebody's crazy enough to pay me a number, I'm thinking about selling. So I just want to talk with you and see if you got my email, see if you had any questions and how that relates to you. That call should be relatively brief, right? Relatively brief because it's a setup for the face-to-face. So I'm going to go email. First off, I'm going to go build my top 50 list. Two is I'm going to take that top 50 list and I'm going to make sure that I have their address. Then I'm going to take their address and without them asking me, I'm going to do a CMA. I'm going to email them the CMA. I'm going to call them the week after about the CMA. I'm going to then look to schedule an appointment face-to-face with them about the CMA. So those are the stepping stones that I'm taking to have a deep, meaningful impact in that person's life. So whenever we say like you need to be meeting with 5 of your top 50 each week, man, if I do that every single week and then I got to call 5 to 10 of them, I'm trying to make it super easy for you. You can knock this out in a month and go deep, deep, deep with 50 people and demonstrate your value, demonstrate how you communicate about the market. You can do a fantastic job in the month of July with 50 people. So then mail, I would say you want to make sure you're mailing your top 50 something once a month, whether it's a postcard, whether it's a letter from the heart. Remember yesterday I talked about the letter of the heart being a story, some sort of evidence of success. Your letter from the heart does not have to be anything about real estate, but just getting in a groove of communicating with them via mail is important. Every 6 months, I would recommend some sort of newsletter. I think that mail has gotten cold for the real estate community probably for the last 5 years. But go back 5 years, 10, 15, man, mail was where it's at. You mail. I think that because we've become so disconnected and everything's just so digital, there is some value to kind of go back. What was old is cool. So going back to mail, making sure that your newsletter is going out once every 6 months, your birthday cards. I loved it. Like I said yesterday with Larry, think about something, not just a birthday card. Think about something like, you know what? I'm going to order 500 of these pictures of me and Dawson swinging on a tire swing with birthday balloons or something. I don't know what it would be. I saw Bob Goff. Bob Goff is an author who's just really a zany, cool, wild, and crazy person. There was an image that I saw of Bob Goff riding a Vespa, and he had a massive handful of balloons as he's riding the Vespa, and he was driving out, and it was an incredible picture, and he was like, you know, woo! And I thought, man, that's a really fun picture about celebrating somebody. I almost wish somebody would ride on a Vespa with a bunch of balloons. For me, I actually had that picture. There we are.
Oh my God.
I was like, man, okay, so that would be a really fun birthday card. And you write on the back, happy birthday, you're worthy to be celebrated. So coming in hot, that's right. You're coming into next. Yeah, so that's a fun celebration. So when I say a birthday card, you may want to be a little bit creative and come up with something that's very personal to you. And let's get it with the team. We'll get the photography made. We'll get the cards ordered, get you a stack of these suckers, and we can make it as fun as you want. But having a stack of your happy birthday to your top 50 at minimum, I mean, preferably past clients, preferably your database, but at the very minimum, we want to have your top 50 celebrated. So have some fun with it. Make it personal. Make it, engaging. That picture really touched me. I was like, that's fun. That's cool. I really would like that birthday card. Here, let me go back. If you really if you really want to know, wait, that's the wrong one. Oh, now I lost my slide. Here we are. In college, I had a pink moped. I found it at a garage sale for $50, and it was a Yamaha Riva, I think is what it was, and I named it Sweet and Low. It was powder pink Sweet and Low, and so I'm at this yard sale. I'm like, you know what, $50? This is awesome. I'm buying this thing. So here I am at college, and I was on the soccer team at the time, and I thought, I'm going to get made fun of, but I actually think this thing's awesome. Yes, the pink color is not ideal. So I went and bought like a little hula girl, and I stuck it on the front of my pink Sweet and Low, and I kept a magic marker or a black Sharpie. So anytime I knew I have to get by on the Sweet and Low. So anytime that I'd pull up, they're like, dude, why are you driving a pink scooter? I'm like, I'll give you a ride if you sign your name. And so all over Sweet and Low, I had signatures all over the thing. And I had signatures all over it. And so then it became a thing. It's like, who gets a ride on Sweet and Low? You get to write your name on it. So then nobody made fun of the Sweet and Low. So Sweet and Low, that would be a funny birthday picture. Yo, I picked her up on that Sweet and Low. Yeah. Sweet and Low, she died a death in college because my buddy lost the key for Sweet and Low, and so then he hot wired it. He tried to hot wire it, and him cutting the wires and wiring all together. I came back and I was like, "Hey man, where's the key?" And he's like, "Ooh, I lost the key." And I was like, "Yeah, well, and then there's wires hanging out." And he's like, "Man, I thought I could hot wire it together and get it back together." I'm like, "You lost the key and you tried to hot wire it? You killed the." So she died. I need to see if I can't get her back to life. Anyway, mailers, be creative, have fun, love on your top 50. Then we go down to events. I said this yesterday, host 2 events for your top 50 once a year. It can be on your back porch. It doesn't have to be crazy and extravagant, but that top 50, one of those events is a dinner, and I do strongly suggest it not just to hang out and just exist. Like, hey, we're having a bunch of people over to watch the game. That's great, but that's not what the top 50 dinner is for. The top 50 dinner is a presentation as to what you're asking of them is, for you to tell them what your business model is, to tell them what you're trying to accomplish this year, your goals and your dreams. There's a very clear ask from them. So the top 50 event dinner is a presentation. I'm asking you to do 2 events with your top 50 a year, but at least one of those needs to be a very clear presentation with an ask and some sort of feedback of a card. Please introduce me to 3 people. Now that I've given you my presentation, give me your ideas, give me your feedback. I'm going to be reaching out to each one of you individually to go to lunch. I'm going to be asking you at lunch for help. And also keep in mind, that ask is a 2-way street. I want you to do the same exact thing for me. The next thing is the host a 6-month board of advisors. This is a tiny mini micro event, but like I said yesterday, I've had a friend that has asked me to be on his board of advisors, and there's only 5 of us. I mean, this isn't like a big sophisticated thing, but we will probably spend anywhere from 2, 3, or maybe even 4 hours once every 6 months or once every 3 months to help him grow his business. He's saying, hey, I want to go really deep with just a handful of people that I have. And the voicemail that he left me, he was very affirming. I'm asking you for these reasons, these reasons, these reasons. This is what I see in you. This is why I want you to help me shape my business. I know it's a tall ask, but would you give me your life? Would you give me your time? I'm like, yes, thanks for the honor. That's really cool. I want you to mimic that. I want you to find a handful of people, 3 minimum, preferably at least 5, but 3 minimum, preferably 5. And you may want to do it up to 12, no more than 12. So because of, my friend Nigel asking me to do that, I will be building my board of advisors. And that was something that I got this idea from. He gave me a book 2 months ago called Boards That Lead. And it's about building your board of advisors and what those meetings can look like. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do that. I'm going to sit in that conference room once a quarter with a board of advisors, and I'm going to give clear business plans and ask for their feedback and influence. So you want to find people that you don't necessarily have a close relationship with, but people that you have a massive amount of respect for, that you believe can really give you some insight and perspective. I'm going back to financial advisor, but if you had a financial advisor and you said, part of my strategy this quarter is to approach financial advisors, I want to understand what would be interesting in that presentation. What do you care about? How could I start to present to more finance? And let them tell you how to approach their audience. If someone says, hey, I really want to engage in realtors. I've got this amazing product that I want to sell realtors. Realtors are my target audience. How does realtors think? What do they want to do? I could give you some insights on how we think and what we do that you probably would not know. So build your board of advisors and make it different types of people, from whether they're legal, whether they're law, whether they're builders, whether they're an influencer. Like, do whatever you need to do to make that board a mix of people to have different vantage points and different perspectives. So that would be the event. Then we're talking about social. On Facebook, on the left-hand side, there is a tab called List. You can easily and quickly build a list. My recommendation is for you to build a list of your top 50. They're not going to be added to the list. You're the only one that knows who's on the list. So make your top 50 list, and when you go to your Facebook profile, you're not going to see a feed of every single person that you're in contact with. You're going to click the list, and you're going to keep close tabs on what's going on in your top 50's life. You're going to have supreme awareness, because sometimes, let's say that they were to post and you missed it that day or that week, and there was a significant life event that you never saw, and it got pushed way down the page, and it never bubbled back up for you to know. So the next time you talk to them, there's a major life event that you just have literally no clue about. So I want to advise you to build that list and keep close tabs on what's going on. When they post, they're posting for a reason, and you need to know what they're doing. And engage with them, comment, not just like, but comment. The next thing is celebrate the birthdays and holidays. You may want to host a party. You may say, you know what, these top 50, Jesus did this. Jesus had 12 people, but then he had 3 that was his inner circle, like his inner circle. So you have your top 50, that's your inner circle from your general database, but then you may say, these 10 people, I'm going to even go deeper with. When it's their birthday, I'm going to host the party. I'm going to pick the location. I'm going to put the guest list together. I'm going to make sure that they feel celebrated. So on celebrating the birthdays and holidays, you may host a party, call them, send a video to them, and then make sure that you have a gift for your top 50. I would recommend, trying to think of a good example. Upstairs, I have bought, last year there was a Proverbs devotional that I felt to be very impactful. It had one side was the scripture, and the other side was the journal that you would write in. That formatting worked really well for me. When it was all together, there's no room to write. I just didn't write. But whenever I had a blank page to, like, I'm reading this, like, wow, that had a great takeaway. So I went and spent a couple $100 and bought a ton of those things. And I wrote a form letter. And so I'm going to be shipping those out to my top 50 people and says, hey, this is something that impacted me last year. This was benefit. Here's some of the benefits that I took away. Here's what I learned. Hopefully this serves you in your journey in your life from learning from the wisest man in the world, Solomon, and what he thought about life and what his principles were. So your gift can be, those things were like $5 a piece at Logos Bookstore in Green Hills. They weren't, but I spent like $250. I mean, that's a number, right? But I want to celebrate them. You may choose to spend a little bit more money or a little bit less money. I have a friend that he has the company Giftology, and so he makes these mugs, these coffee mugs, and it's really fascinating. Whenever he gifts a mug, he goes and he figures out everything in their life, like where they went to high school, where they went to college, who they got married to, everything about significant mile markers in their life, their kids' names. And he hires someone to take the ceramic mug, and they're a little bit bigger, and they literally engrave their life story and customize the mug of their life story. And he gives it, and it costs a couple $100 a mug because it's in hand engraved in ceramic. Yeah.
I did that to all my guys for Christmas.
Yeah, pocket knives that are engraved.
Yep.
Is that metal or is that?
Yeah, it's really.
Or is that
This is a wood.
Oh, nice.
It's really nice. $20, but just something like that, and just the gratitude drum was pretty cool. So.
I think coffee mugs are cool because people use them. You want something they're gonna have some repetition in use, or something that's a reminder. So coffee mugs are cool. A book is cool. I mean, like Nigel sent me the book Boards That Lead. He actually mailed it to me. And then he invited me to be on his board. So be creative with gifts and be purposeful and meaningful. The more custom it is for them, the better. So then ask for 3 introductions, not necessarily referrals, but ask for 3 introductions from your top 50 every 6 months. If you're asking for 3 introductions every 6 months from 50 people, that's 150 new prospects, right? So I'm being very methodical about this because I want you to understand the impact. These are your top 50 you're betting your career on. These are your favorite people that you're going to go deep with. If you like them, there's a really good chance that you're going to like their 3 best friends. Just from proximity. Does that make sense? They're probably somewhat similar in nature. So if I got 50 people and I'm asking for 3 introductions, hey, who are 3 people that you think are cool? Who are 3 people that you like? 3 people that you think I need to get to know? I'm just looking to expand my network and I'd love to grow my database. Yeah, you need to talk to so-and-so, so-and-so, and so-and-so. Could you make an introduction? If you do that once every 6 months, that 50 will go to 150. You got 150 new people to start a relationship with that are probably high caliber people because these are the best 50-50 and their close friends are going to be pretty high caliber people. If you do that once a year, that's 150 new prospects. If you do that once every 6 months, you have 300 new people a year to get to know. So you're not really at a loss for opportunities, right? So that's how we want to take the top 50 list and really go deep. This is enough work for one person to do in a quarter all day long. But if you're overzealous, we get to go to the next level, right? So any questions on this before we move to the next level with clients?
So I had a lender that's been trying to talk to me for a while and get me to go to eat lunch or breakfast or whatever. And I keep saying no. So somehow we started. So the last conversation that we had, he started off by, he had basically stalked my Facebook page. And I saw that David was teaching our 5-year-old how to shoot a little gun at the farm. So he started off with that. I'm sorry I stalked your Facebook page. I saw your son, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, yeah, I shot it, but I'm a horrible shot. And he was like, oh, you should take lessons, with realtors nowadays. It's dangerous and blah, blah, blah. I was like, yeah, I just haven't. And I was like, I just need like a knife or a bat or something. This came in the mail.
Oh, man.
A week later, I was like, hey, I could put that in my pocket if anything ever happened. But it was just like he was very intentional on meeting me where I was. And
Yeah.
so I went and supposed to have breakfast next week,
That's great.
Yeah. I don't know how to
So being super intentional, being prepared, it speaks a lot. Some people would call it stalker or creeper, like, oh, thanks for caring enough about prospecting with me to get to know who I am from a digital standpoint and say, hey, I see you like this. I mean, I appreciate you doing the homework. So the goal here is to get your top 50, refer one person a year. I want to make it super simple. I'm just trying to get one referral or they use you per year. If you did that list prior, you're going to get 50 leads a year. 1 lead a week. That should be very easy to do if you're really intentional with those 50 people. So you're going to receive this right after the 4th of July when we come back. In the planner, we're going to give you the framework by which to fill this out, but it's going to be their name, and you have the months of the year and how you're connecting with them throughout the year, whether that's face-to-face, whether that's email, every single month, what you're doing for your top 50. So then let's jump into our general database. The database is your foundation of your real estate business. I showed you how to go deep. Now we want to go wide. This wide is getting basically ever growing. It's never going to stop growing. So as agents, you heard it said we have 2 jobs. We got to get leads and sell houses. But if we can't get leads, we're never going to sell the house. So with our database that's ever growing, let's talk about why our general database is going to choose to work with agents. So historically, people work with who they know, they like, and they trust. Historically, I think that we've moved towards a little bit more of a interpersonal or what is it? People don't care as much about the relationship, especially millennials. Like the relationship, great. We have a relationship. Are you valuable? Right? I think we've kind of moved to people work with who they connect with. who they value and who they trust. If you're not connecting with someone, they could feel like you don't care about them. Like, think about somebody in your life that you just hadn't connected with in a while, and you've reached out to them, and you've called them, and they just hadn't called you back. And you're like, man, I guess we're just not that good of friends. Like, you get turned off. It's not that you don't know them. I do know them, but we're just not connecting. like I've hit the ball over the net a couple of times, and the ball's never come back over the net. So we need to be connecting, not just knowing. Liked, I would work with someone that I don't like all day long if I valued them. You know, I only got to get through 30 days with them. They're okay. We don't really connect that well, but they're valuable. They really help me in this time period. I'm willing to get beyond liking. They're valuable. And then trust. I think sometimes trust can be built over time, but I also think trust can be built in like absolute split seconds. There's a thing that Stephen Covey had, speed of trust. Like, how quickly can you build trust can be instantaneous. So if you have value to offer, if you speak in terms that have specificity about the real estate market or about about buying houses versus generally, oh, the real estate market's hot. Everybody says that. I don't really trust someone who says the same thing that everybody else said. This person's saying something a little bit different. I actually trust what they're saying because they have a voice, they have a thought, they have a brain, they have some data. Like they seem to be on their game. So the point being is we have to be more connected than known. We have to be more valuable than liked. In the trust, we can go deep quick versus being trusted. It took 10 years, but now I do trust them. So our general database, I want us to focus on connection, value, and trust. Building your database must be a daily discipline. So your call to action that you're going to get in your 3-month planner is 5 connections every single week. 5 connections every single week. Are we ever building our database? 5 connections every single week. That may seem to be a lot, but if you're standing in line at Starbucks, you might want to start talking to the people around you. You might want to put your phone in your pocket and just start talking. I remember this, one time I was at Dan McGinnis. This is back in the day before I was married, and there was a guy sitting there, and I said, man, those boots are awesome. I like your boots. He goes, thanks, man. I was like, where'd you get them? And we just started talking because I'm going to talk to anybody that's around me. It turns out that he has referred me probably no less than 10 people in my life. He was the chief neurosurgeon at Vanderbilt. He sold his house here. I sold his house. He has referred quite a few people to me. We became really, really, really good friends, but it all started over me saying, I like your boots. And we started talking about his boots. And it was funny. He's like, yeah, I'm pretty short, so I like the heels, So we just cut up over it. So the point being is I could add a connection in my database, Luke, because I'm talking to him about his boots at Dan McGinnis watching a football game. So adding 5 people is not very hard if you just talk to anyone around you and just let magic happen. Like, man, you like watching football? We should do this again next weekend. So point being is make sure we're adding it every single day. So let's talk about our client database. Just like our top 50, there's some things that we use, our phone, our email, our mail, our events, to connect with our client database. So the first thing is we want to check in call after they've closed 1 week. So 1 week after, we want to check in. We want to ask for feedback. We want to ask for feedback to our client database. We want to say, hey, thank you for working with me, but do me a favor. What are a couple things that were impressive to you that worked, that it was helpful? And what are a couple things that you wish was different that I could improve upon? Those are 2 very soft and easy questions to ask, because if you start to hear the same thing, hey, I really appreciated you educating me and not pushing that house because I would have bought that first house. Thank you for not pushing that house. We actually found the house that we liked better, but you could have easily sold us. If you hear that a couple times out of people, that means you're building rapport with them and they're trusting you whenever you talk them out of stuff, right? If you start to hear people that says, what do you wish was different? I got to say, like, the inspection period, I know that you said that the seller wasn't willing to make those repairs, but I kind of wish you would have pushed a little bit harder for us for those inspection repair items. Like, we got in the house and it was they moved all the furniture out. There was a little bit more work than we thought. And man, we could have used a little bit more money. you know what? Thank you for the feedback. Don't push back. Don't give an explanation. Thanks for the feedback. I want to make sure that I could have pushed a little bit harder for you if that's what you wanted. You may want to ask them a clarifying question and say something like, help me understand, pushing a little bit harder for you. I could have done it. How would you have known that I was an advocate for your desires, even if the seller was not going to do it? Like to what extent would I have had to have push for it to break down? Because you may learn something. They may say, well, I don't really know how y'all's conversations was going, so I'm just kind of taking your information. Next time I'm gonna let somebody listen on the call. I'm gonna do a 3-way call. I'm gonna say to the other agent, can I call you about the repairs? And I'm gonna have my client sitting quiet on the phone, and I'm gonna talk to the client. So you're telling me that your seller will give no money at all, and they will walk away from this deal if we are gonna ask for $1,500. And your client's listening like, absolutely. If they don't take it as is, we will not close in this house, period. So now your next client got to hear all that, and they're not going to feel that you didn't push hard enough, right? So you can take a feedback from one client and say, okay, next time I get in that situation, I'm going to let the client listen in. So they heard me advocate. They heard me push for them, but they also heard the strength of the seller. And now the client knows that I did all I could do, and they made the decision in clarity that they were not going to get anywhere on this deal. So that being said if you're asking for feedback, positive and I wouldn't say negative, but it's an opportunity for growth, from now on, let somebody listen in. I'm not ever going to have someone feel that I didn't advocate for them. Make sense? So you want to do your survey, 2 quick questions. Give me feedback. First off, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I know you have choices. Second off, what was beneficial, what was helpful. Teach me maybe what I don't even know that stood out to you. If you were to tell someone about this transaction, what would you communicate about the transaction, about me, about the company, about the experience, about the home buying process? What stood out that was positive? This, and this. Oh, I didn't realize that they really appreciated that I was not talking on the phone in the house. Does that make sense? Like, let's say, I just appreciate you for when you were with us, you weren't walking around our house. Because our last agent, we were showing houses and they'd be like talking to somebody else on the phone as they're walking around. Thank you for staying off the phone and giving us your undivided attention. Hey, somebody like that. Maybe that should become a practice that I never talk on the phone with anyone ever if I'm in the house with a client. I give them my undivided attention. If they would not have told you they appreciate it, you may not practice that with everybody. And then what they wish was different could be something as simple as an advocate for the home inspection. Let them listen in next time.
Does Scout send either our clients and or
Every time.
other agents that we worked with on the other side?
Every time. We found that surveys after the closing, because it's such a big push to get to the closing, and you got the moving ban and you got the closing, the settlement statement, to fill out a survey days after closing, man, we're trying to carry couches and get the carpets clean. So, yeah, it needs to be pushed back. So the point being is, if you have a check-in call, there's a better chance that you may hear the clear feedback. 2 quick questions. So this is pretty small, but so 1 week after you close, 1 month, 3 months, and 6 months. Just have a way to check in your 1-year anniversary. Hey, congratulations, it's been 1-year anniversary on your house. If you know their birthdays, you may want to call them on their birthdays. Make it a habit, just like your top 50. Every time your client has a birthday, you're celebrating their birthday. And then ask for referral business. If you have served someone, like a lot of times we may wait till after the transaction to ask for referral business from our clients. I feel that at each step of the journey, as you've added value, you should be asking for referral business. After the consultation, buyer consultation, they say, yeah, we want to work with you. Who do you know that may be entering a similar stage of life that would appreciate a meeting just like this? As you start to look at houses like, man, it's been a great day. Thanks so much for showing us around. Man, we really had fun just to seeing all the different areas and seeing all the different houses. No problem. So glad we got to spend time together. So you really enjoyed the home tour? Like, yeah. Do you know of anyone in your stage of life who also may appreciate a home tour just to see what's out there? If you're under contract, who do you know that's in the as you close? So you want to make sure that you're asking for referrals as value is being added throughout. Sometimes we try to wait to the very end, But I remember whenever, my wife, whenever she was pregnant, it seemed like she knew every pregnant woman in all of Davidson County. Like everybody who was pregnant knew everybody who was pregnant. Anybody who's thinking about buying a house knows who's buying a house. It's almost like that's what you're talking about when you go to birthday parties. That's what you're talking about when you go to church, when you go to the gym, when you're even around people. Everyone, it seems like everyone knows right now that Karen and I are looking to buy a house. Everybody's like, are you all looking to buy a house? So whenever someone has a major life event like a baby or a house, their entire sphere of influence is saying, oh yeah, we're thinking about buying a house too. Yeah, we're about to start looking. Who'd you use for a loan? So you need to make sure that you have, in a sense, turned them on to speak about who they're working with at each stage of the journey. If they say, I just had a family reunion and my friend or my cousin said that they're going to be buying a house as well, they need to have this type of meeting, this type of buyer consultation. So you want to make sure that you're asking for referrals from your client database. Past and current and leads it would qualify as your client database. Then you have face-to-face. Because your client database, it should say meet with 5 per week. If you have a big enough database of past clients, you should be meeting with 5 of them once a week. Like let's say that you have 50 clients. Yeah, every couple of weeks you're meeting with somebody. So you want to make sure you're reconnecting. The biggest complaint that clients have is that they never talk to their agent again after they sold the house. So make sure that that's not you. 89% of people won't use that agent. So make sure that's not you. The email, the same exact thing that we did with the top 50, same exact cadence. That 6-month CMA needs to go out to your past clients every 6 months. And if you're like, oh man, I just didn't get to it this 6 months, think about this. Someone else is sending them something. If you want to, I remember one time I walked into my friend's house and there was there was a couple different magnets on the refrigerator of the Titans and the Predators schedule from different realtors. And I was in their house and I was getting some out of the fridge and I saw these schedules and I was like, I took them all through the trash. I'm like, no, I'm not letting any realtor, but I didn't send them a magnet. I didn't send them something. I'm like, I'm about to send them some magnets, like someone else is going to talk to your sphere of influence if you're not. So you want to make sure if you don't want your lunch money stolen, you're talking to them. The mail, we went through this in the top 50. The client database in the top 50, I have a similar formula. I want to make sure that they're getting some form of letter, postcard once a month. I want to make sure that they're getting a newsletter. I want to make sure that they're getting a birthday card. I want to make sure that they're getting a client gift. And so you get to decide the cadence of that client gift, but I would recommend in the top 50 in the client gifts that it is a surprise. If you send it to them at the end of the year around Christmas, they're getting all this other stuff. If you do your client event around the holidays, that's everyone else's as well. Pick some random date like August the 3rd and send your client gift. There is nothing around August the 3rd to compete with them getting a gift in the mail. Does that make sense? So whenever you choose for that gift to go out, whenever you choose your events, find pockets throughout the year that there's nothing to compete with it. Don't compete around Labor Day. Don't compete around 4th of July. Don't compete around Memorial Day. Don't compete around Thanksgiving or Christmas. Like it's just not worth it. So if you want to stand out, make sure that there's no noise in that 3 or 4 weeks around whenever you sent that gift. Then the event, I would suggest host 2 client appreciation parties every single year. Client appreciation parties are always weird just because they don't know each other and you're almost inviting a bunch of strangers to come hang out with one another. So do yourself a favor, go to Arrington, make that one of them, let the kids just run around, and it just kind of makes it an easy environment. Put some balloons up, and your job in that event is to be a connector. This is like, you should look at this as like, this is your mini networking event. You're not talking about, hey, I want you to meet so-and-so. The reason why y'all need to y'all both homeschool your kids. Hey, you guys need to meet. The reason y'all need to meet is y'all are both in these 2 industries that can benefit one another. So you're going around and you're literally like connecting the dots for people. That is what the point of it is. Your spouse, or if you're married, it's helpful to have someone there. Hey, this client appreciation party, we are not eating, we are not drinking, we are here to love on people, and here's our strategy. We are trying to make connections and get them talking. Otherwise, it's just going to be super awkward if we get caught in a 20-minute conversation with one person and the other 30 people are just standing there not knowing one another. So you've got to make quick connections, right? You've got to create an environment to where it seems engaging and natural. Karen went to a party with a magician one time with all these girls, and they had a magician to do a show, and it was really, really cool. And then we had a end of the year party here at Scout with that same magician. So you can be creative and say, I want to get a magician, or I want to get a band. I want to have a food truck with a movie at the Centennial Park. If you can piggyback off of something that's already happening, like, hey, there's movies in the park. I don't know if they're picking that back up this fall. They used to do that before coronavirus. If there's a movies in the park, I'm going to be ordering a food truck, or I'm going to be hosting a thing so that we can have dinner and then y'all can go watch the movie as a family. So you may choose to do your client appreciation party and piggyback off of something. My old coach, she would do a client appreciation party at the movies around Christmas. She would rent out the movie theater and get like a Christmas movie. That's a good way to not make it awkward if a bunch of people don't know each other, because you're not sitting there talking. It's like, bring all the kids. We're going to have Santa Claus there, take pictures with Santa, have food out in the lobby. Like they would go to the Green Hills and like do it downstairs where they could like really set up. And so there was only like 10 or 15, 20 minutes of people coming in and out and feeling loved upon, and then going to the movie. And now they're not sitting there having to talk to strangers that they don't know. So just be mindful. Your client appreciation parties can be really cool, or they can be really awkward. And if you have that's only you're the main event, you better start connecting people quickly. Otherwise, you get dominated in conversation and someone came as a past client and you never talk to them. Okay, so the client appreciation parties can backfire. Current clients, every single week, your current clients should be getting a call from you. They should be getting an update call. If they're a cold client that's not making any decisions on buying right now, I think it's as simple as leaving a voicemail and say, hey, the reason I'm calling, I know you're going to take a couple months off because of the summer and you're going to kick back up in the September, but there's a listing that I think is amazing. And I just want to put it on your radar because this house may serve as a great benchmark house for you when you come back to buy. So you're acknowledging that they have told you, I'm not going to buy right now. You're not pushing them a new listing. If they like that listing, they're going to tell you. And just say, next week, I'm going to find another benchmark house. I'll send it to you as well, but I want you to stay top of mind. So your client should have a weekly update call. Next thing is your face-to-face. Of course, there's open houses and of course there's showings. And then email. I think it's really important to not rely. Like, one of the things I hate about the auto notification system is it's easy to get lazy with your customers. Before they had auto notification, you actually had to send and scour the internet to find their sample size, and you have to send it to them. Whenever they made the auto notification, it was like, wow, this makes my job easy. I'm just going to send them up and let it go. I would like for each week for you to pull the total list and send them a total list. It's very simple to go to an auto notification, filter out the ones that went into contract, and send them, this is the updated inventory for this week only. Last week was 27, this week is 17. Next week is 23. Because if they're getting them incrementally one by one by one by one by one, they may miss some emails here and there, and they only see one or two listings. You kind of want to set a hard reset. Here is this week's complete total inventory. It should take you all of like 2 minutes to do this. Go down your auto notification, filter out the under contracts, send them the complete list. Filter out the under contracts, send the complete list. If you want to go a step farther, look through that list and say, this week, these are the two houses that would be my choices if I was you. So you keep pushing them down the road. These are my two choices. Okay? Any questions on that? Our goal is to make them a raving fan to where they refer one client a year. I don't even know how someone came up with this statistic, but it is a national statistic that the average person knows of 4 people who are going to buy or sell in a year. And they don't know that they don't know the 4 people. A lot of times, sometimes it's like you had 4 people in your sphere of influence who moves, and you find out maybe after the fact. But if 4 people are going to buy or sell a year, how do you make sure that your past clients, if you had 50 past clients, in a sense, there is 200 people that are going to make a buying and selling decision this year. 50 past clients, 4 times 4, 200 people. I better be getting 1 referral a year out of them, or either A, I failed them, or B, they have forgot about me because I quit talking to them, or C, I have not even asked them. So if our goal for the top 50 is to get 1 lead per year, if our goal for our past clients is to get 1 lead per year, that's about 100 leads if you had 50 past clients and 50 top 50s. 2 leads a week from a great referral source is going to convert at a very high level, very, very high level. Let's do one more slide, and then we're gonna take a break after this one. Our database. Whenever you have your general database, and say it's 250 people or 500 people or 1,000 people, I mean, the bigger your database is, the harder it is to get connected to your database. You start to realize, man, I can't get through 1,200 contacts in a year. That's a lot of people. So it's really important to first off, top grade your list. And so I'm looking right here, work through top grading your list. Here's how I recommend it. You want to take an Excel spreadsheet like this, and you have their name. So you take all of your database. Every time you add a new Facebook friend, you're adding their name in. Every time you meet someone, you're adding their name in. You're ever building this database list. But you have two pre-columns in here. One is you have your column that's personal, and your next column is business. So here's the question that you want to ask yourself. When you add someone to this list, they're probably going to be personal. They're going to be lower. Like you just met them. You just added them to the list. They're probably going to be a 3. Dawson, if it's somebody that you went to high school with, somebody that's at your wedding, it's probably going to be a 1. So you're going to have people that are either 1, 2, or 3. The 1, 2, or 3 grade is on your evaluation of how connected you are to this person. I'm really, 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 really close to them. They're a 1. I just met them. They're a 3. I know them. Yeah, they're like we've gone to church for a few years. We talk. We're friendly, but I'm not like super, super close with them. It would be a stretch to say, hey, Saturday morning, why don't y'all come over and watch college football? Not quite there yet, So personal, I'm going to grade my personal connections 1, 2, and 3. The business lens is like, you know what, based on who they are, based on their position at their job, based on their network, how impactful could they be to the growth of my business? So I would grade those as A, B, and C. There is a past client of mine. She bought a house with me years ago. It was a $150,000 townhome in Bellevue. And she was so excited, and I felt like it was such a great relationship in helping them buy this house. And personally, we were not that connected. We were like a 3. I mean, she was a referral from a friend of a friend, and it was like, I can definitely help them. I'm excited to. As we got to know each other, we just weren't that similar at all. Like it'd be kind of a hard relationship to spend time with for me. We're just two totally different places in life. However, it turns out that her position at her job, she was over the HR department and hiring for her company, and they hired consistently, quarterly, always hiring, in and out of Nashville, I didn't know that until maybe like 2 or 3 months when I checked in with her after she bought the house. I knew where she worked. I just didn't know what she did. So I called. I remember I said, I want to host a move-in party, a welcome party to your house. So I asked her what she wanted. She wanted sub sandwiches. So I took sub sandwiches, and all her family came, and we had lunch there, and it was great. And I welcomed her goodbye. But in that sub sandwich delivery, and I'm hanging out with them, something came about her position where she worked. And like the light bulb immediately went off. She hires all the people who are relocating in her department. And I said, hey, we never really talked about this. I knew where you worked. I didn't know what you did. You can refer business to me, and I can serve them just the way I served you. So she was a 3, but her ability to affect my business was an A. And so whenever you're starting to top grade your contacts, not everyone is going to be equally impactful to your business. I've got a friend who her aunt is a real estate agent. There is no way in the world that she's ever going to use me ever as long as her aunt's alive. However, she's really good for business. Not personally, but she's good for business. She's very influential. She has a great network. Okay, I'm going to grade her differently from like what she would use versus what she could refer to. She would not refer her aunt. I mean, that's been made clear that she's not going to refer her aunt, but she has to use her aunt. So all that to say is whenever you're looking at your list, you only have a small window of time to work each week, right? So I don't want to just, if I had a big database and had 1,000 people, man, I can't go and work 1,000 people every single month and get through these every year. I'm going to hit my 1As first. I'm going to make sure I get my 1As first. I'm going to get my 2As second. And then I'm going to get my 1Bs. Like, I'm going to start to focus on, I may never get to my 3Cs. The 3Cs may never, ever hear from me. They may get a letter from me in the mail once every 6 months. They may get an email from me every now and then. They may see some things on social. So be it. But I have no time to focus on the 3Cs. If something good happens from it, thank God, that was luck. I just didn't make that much of an effort. But dadgummit, if something doesn't work out from the 1As, that's all my fault. So you get to evaluate your database about when you go to work and it's business hours, who is the best use of your time? There was a season in my career to where I kind of got lazy from a standpoint of like, man, I've got great relationships with this list of people. Man, these are my friends. These are the people I spend time with. You know what? No matter how I cut it up, there's a couple of my old roommates that I was really close with. I still am close with. For business, they're a C. They just aren't wired to refer. So if I go to work, I probably should not work with them in my life right now. We can spend time after hours, we can spend time on the weekend, but I'm not. So top grading your list is going to help you focus your activity. As your list starts to grow, you need to continue to top grade, okay? I just added 5 people. I'm going to grade them, and I'm going to see, I'm actually, this guy that I met this past week, I'm going to start spending more time with him than someone that I've known for 7 years because their grade is different. So whenever we're calling, I would strongly recommend working through the 1As first, 1Bs second, 2As second, third, 2Bs, and then you get down to the bottom. Okay. Email, very similar to the other ones that we talked about. I have in here your CMA every 6 months. The bigger your list grows, you're not going to be able to get through everybody. So you want to say, I'm for sure going to get through my 1As. I'm for sure going to get through my 1Bs. I'm for sure going to get through my 2As. I'm for sure get through my 2Bs. So if it starts to end like, okay, I got to stop at 400. I cannot give another week to CMAs. Find your threshold and stop, but don't be random. Make sure that you've top graded them and you spend your efforts on the best of the best. So I want to, this down here, there's elements of this that we've already covered. I want to go down to the very bottom, conduct seminars. This is something we've not talked about. I want you to conduct seminars. I want those seminars to be first-time homebuyer seminars. I want them to be real estate investing seminars, and I want them to be public speaking engagements. Public speaking engagements, find a nonprofit that you can come and talk about how to help the underserved housing communities. Find avenues to speak. I don't even care if it's about real estate. You could be a Bible study teacher. I don't care. Find a way to talk, because the more that you talk, the more you're in front of people, the better you will get at communication. So if you're in the real estate industry, if you're talking to people that want to know about real estate, first-time homebuyer seminars or investment seminars are great. I would get in a habit of finding out, where does your top 50 work? Can you get introduced to their HR department? Can you do a first-time homebuyer seminar at their company where you bring Qdoba and feed everybody? Lunch and learns, for sure. Get in a cadence that you're trying to schedule lunch and learns all the time. Get in a cadence where you're trying to do an investment seminar once every quarter. Find a way to talk. So the last thing is start or attend a weekly small group. I mentioned this yesterday as far as the events category, but as it relates to your database, you need to figure out a way to connect with people. And my strong recommendation is to not let it go past 6 months. People start to, like, the longer something goes, the more the band kind of breaks up. So have a very clear start and very clear stop. We're going to go for 8 weeks and we're going to stop. You can always take a month off and then pick it right back up if you liked it, okay? But make sure that there is a very clear start date. The reason why is because you may want to rotate your group. You may want to add some new people. You may want to move on to a different audience. I mean, so just have a group that you have connected. If it's a workout group on Saturday morning, take your database and say, I'm going to do a hike at Radnor every Saturday morning at 6:30, and we're going to afterwards go to breakfast with one another. Love to put you on my Radnor lake walking group and we go to First Watch afterwards. I don't care what it is. Make something up. Make it consistent, though. That's what I'm asking you. Make something up, make it consistent. Find 4 or 5 things that you think are interesting and say, I'm going to send this out to my whole database. Anybody interested in a walking club at Radnor Lake on Saturday mornings to get some fresh air and we go to breakfast together? Just make it simple. So the purpose in this, the goal is to become their first choice as an agent. So the top 50, we're looking for 1 referral. From past clients, we're looking for 1 referral. From your general database, you're just trying to be their first choice. Top of mind awareness, we're just trying to be in the top of mind awareness. Okay? If we have positioned ourselves well with top 50, well with past clients, and well with database, you cannot not get clients throughout the year. I mean, it's like literally impossible. So let's take a 5-minute break, and then we're going to jump into the business development. We're going to jump into the farming of our neighborhoods, and then we're gonna bring it all together on how we actually implement this. So let's just take 5 minutes, and we'll go from there. Tracy, you catch her up, Dawson. All right, here we go. If you have value to offer others, then you have a moral responsibility to make your sphere of influence know how you can uniquely add value to their life. Moral responsibility, that's a big word. Matt, you laugh. I really find that if God has put people in our life, if we have a sphere of influence that He's entrusted us, it's so important that they understand how you can contribute to their life. And so if you do not have a plan, if you're scared, if you don't want to come across as a pushy salesperson, flip it the other way. You're actually robbing them of the benefit of you serving them. And so that's why I think it's so important to list build, why it's so important to have a plan of communication, is because you want to make it abundantly clear how you can bless them and how you can benefit them. The other, to not do that is actually taking away from their life. So that's why I would say you have a moral responsibility to add value and contribute to your customer's life. So we want to talk about your database strategies. With your database strategies, I said this a little earlier, but we want to segment your database and communicate with them based on that segmentation. So top 50, general database, past clients, business development. So segment them, and then we segment them 1, 2s, and 3s, A, Bs, and Cs, based on your personal connection, based on your business connection. So if you can't get through contacting your people every single month, and you end up only talking to like 150 of them, well, next month, go back and start at the top. Don't just keep working your way at the bottom, because your better connections may not hear from you for quite some time. The next thing is have a plan to systematically communicate. We've built a plan that we're going to give to you. This plan that we're going to give to you is maybe overwhelming. It may be too much. That's why we want to treat it like a buffet, and you're going to select the ones that you're saying, I'm going to commit to this. The next thing is communicate your value proposition so that people know how you benefit your life, benefit their life. Next is have targets that you want to connect with, and ask your database to make introductions. So if you don't know who you want to connect with, it's going to be really hard to get in relationship with them. So for me, John and I, we built a target list of some people that we wanted to be in relationship with to help us grow our business. And many of these people, we don't know. We're going to look to see how can we to get in relationship with them. So you have a target, you can work your way in to get to know that person. The next thing was be a connector, make strong introductions. If you want people to connect you, you connect them. Sometimes whatever you want someone to do for you, do it first for them, and they'll be like, hey, thanks for introducing me to so-and-so. Man, they were awesome. And I've been thinking about homeschooling my kids, and they homeschool. It was such a good time to have lunch with them and learn about homeschool. I had no idea. So whatever is personal in their life, you make that connection, you can get some mileage with them, because whenever you're asking them for a connection, they know how it feels to be connected to someone who has some information or has some perspective that they wanted to know. So do for other people what you want them to do for you. Next thing is ever build your database by asking for introductions and referrals. So this thing is ever growing. Next is have a plan when you connect, so make an ask. Whenever you connect with them at lunch, you're sitting down with them, you have your notes, you have specifically what you're trying to talk with them about, and you're filling in the blanks. The next thing is add 5 new people a week. From there, we want to follow up after the connection. When you have lunch with someone, you should be writing a handwritten note the next week. So whenever you start to see who do I want to write notes with this week? Well, look at what you did last week and write notes. Who referred you business? Write notes. Whose birthday is it? Write notes. So it should be very easy to build enough sample size to know exactly who you should be writing every single week. The next thing we want to do is we want to talk about business. We happen to be an industry that people love to talk about. It's very popular. There's actually few industries in the world that has as much interest from people as our industry. And ironically, people have the least amount of respect and the least amount of trust for real estate agents than used car salesmen. And that's legit statistics. The esteem level that our industry has is through the floor. It's horrible. However, we have one of the most interesting and popular conversations starters out there. So because people love to talk about business, it should not be hard at all to talk about what you're doing. Especially now, right? Whenever I was really early in my career, there was times where I didn't really know what to talk about in real estate, because I'm still trying to get the hang of it. And so I just got really good at telling stories. And I would typically tell stories about me showing houses. if I'm out to dinner with a group of people, like, man, let me tell you the funny story. I was out showing some houses the other day, and I would just tell about I'm driving in East Nashville, and here's what I saw, or here's what I experienced. I'm just trying to, through the lens of a story, is to tell them that I'm in real estate and I'm showing houses, and here's what I'm seeing. Whether it's funny, it doesn't have to be super data rich. It doesn't have to be super heady. It can just be like, man, have you been over this ice cream shop that just opened up? So I was showing some houses over there off of Wedgwood, Houston, and there's this new place that just opened up, and I was driving over, so I swung in there. It's actually really, really good. If you're ever in that area, you should check it out. Man, the construction, you wouldn't imagine how much the construction is going on over there. There is some really weird modern stuff. I don't really jive to that, but that area has come to life. If you haven't been around there in a long time, it's really amazing what's happened. That's just a quick story that you're interjecting in conversation that's helping people to know, I'm in real estate. I'm in real estate. I'm in real estate. So whenever you're talking about your business, it does not have to be like, have you seen the latest report? No, it could just be like, man, let me show you a picture. I was in a house the other day. Can you believe what these people painted on their wall? Like, that is hideous. Thomas, I think it was you that had like some Seven Dwarf picture from years ago. Was it? There was somebody who drew like Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs in their house or something.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I've seen it all. I've seen somebody do like a glitter wall with like shellac over it, or I don't know, some sort of like epoxy stuff over it.
So
People have a lot of
as you're out showing houses, just start taking pictures of crazy, wild, funny, cool, awesome stuff. And just get in the habit of talking about real estate when you're with people like, oh, I got to show you a picture. I got to show you a picture. You know, I was showing this house the other day. Look at this. I got to show you. You just want to very easily and in conversation, let people know I'm in real estate. I'm in real estate. I'm active. I'm showing houses. I'm doing stuff. I'm around the city versus I'm a secret agent. Nobody knows what I'm doing. Or, oh, stop. You keep pushing. So very easy, tell stories, talk about real estate. And then last, I've said this before, but database strategies, celebrate the birthday, celebrate the holiday. Do not rely upon a text message. Do not rely upon an email. Do not rely upon a post of happy birthday on a Facebook wall. Like, that is not what I'm talking about. To celebrate means you're taking a little bit of an extra step. So here's some questions that I strongly recommend you start to work through with your database. So start off with your top 50 and then start to move into your 1As, your 1Bs, your 2As, your 2Bs. Like, you want to get these 7 questions answered by every top 50 person that you have, and then start to move in your general database. So let me tell you these 7 questions and why they're important. Whenever we talked about yesterday, the shelf space of the mind, 1, 2, 3, many. So they can think of 3 people and then they forget everybody else. You have to be in the top 3 of your sphere of influence mind. Have to. The goal is to be number 1. So you're going to meet with your client or your sphere of influence. And if you've been in real estate for a long time, a lot of those could be your clients. If you haven't been in real estate a long time, you could have a lot of friends that were somebody else's clients. So these questions are people who were not your clients. So the first question is, who was your last agent? When you bought your home, who sold you the house? The next question is, what did they do well? So how long have you guys lived in your house? We've been there for the last 3 or 4 years. Oh, cool. Man, I wish I'd have known you then. I'd love to have been your realtor. I'm curious, who did you guys work with? Oh, we worked with so-and-so. You know, in real estate, I can learn from anybody. I'm curious, what did they do well? What was something that you really appreciated about that relationship? You will hear all sorts of answers. Some things will say, it was a complete disaster. I would never work with them again. Oh, okay. Now I know that they're out of the equation, right? If they say, we really appreciated this, we really appreciated this, they did such a good job here. I don't want to go at the throat and say, you know, what did they do bad? So I want to say, what do you wish was different about that transaction? If there's anything that came up or anything about their representation of you that you just wish was different, this is where you find a chink in the armor. This is where you find where you can lean in and hopefully win that client. From there, you want to find out how are they going to make a decision if they're going to hire a new agent. So if you were to sell and hire an agent, how would you choose your representation? Are you going to call that person back just directly? Or are you going to interview other agents? Or there's no way, no how you'd work with them again, or they even in the business? If they may say something like, my best man at my wedding got his license last year. So, I mean, if we were having to hire an agent, we definitely wouldn't hire an old person because they were no good, but we would have to hire my best man at my wedding. Okay, that's really important to know, because if I'm going to spend business time trying to work with you, I may be barking up the wrong tree, right? So the next thing is, what would be your process in hiring an agent? They may say, my process in hiring an agent is I'm going to interview 3 people, or I'm going to interview 2 people, or I'm just going to talk to my best man at my wedding. You're wanting to find out if they're open to work with you. So the next question you're going to ask is, when do you think that you're most likely to sell? And then what would be your make me move now price? So these questions, I think that if you're getting the answers from these top 50 people, you're going to start to know where you stand and where's a good use of your time and where's a bad use of your time. And my recommendation is, if you find out, like right here, if you were to sell, what would be your representation hiring agent? What would be your process? If they give you some sort of indication that they're open to talk to other agents, if they're open to hear about your value proposition, then you got a chance at winning their business. I used to, let me share with you how I positioned Mike Smalling as a lender and how Mike has won business on creating value. I've had plenty of people tell me, we've already have a lender that we like. We have someone that we've known for years. And I will say this, whenever you shop for a lender, it's kind of like shopping for a car. If you go to one Ford dealership and go to another Ford dealership, they may have different pricing and different options. So I would strongly recommend talking to Mike, because F&M historically has had the cheapest rates in town. Historically, they have never missed a closing date, and historically their upfront fees are really strong. Not to mention, Mike is top 5 in the entire state. Not to mention, Mike is a super great educator. So there's some supreme advantages to working with Mike at F&M Bank. So use your friend, plan to use your friend, but by talking to Mike, he may be able to give you a good faith estimate that you can then take and get your friend to match. And this has happened probably over 100 times legitimately, to where they have dropped their previous lender because their previous lender did not have a better value proposition than what Mike had to offer. So sometimes if it's relationship to relationship, that's very hard to break that tie. If it is, sorry, there's a red-tailed hawk just attacked a buzzard. There's a red-tailed hawk that just descended on top of the buzzard out there on the dumpster. I was like, that was like wild America. Sorry, I got distracted on that one. He came out of the sky going, ah! Where was I? If it's relationship to relationship, sometimes it's very hard to win relationships. They have a better connection. But by bringing in a different element of value versus relationship, now we have a different way to evaluate. If they brought in Mike Smalling's value and their relationship could not beat it, sometimes they'll break that relationship and use Mike. That happens quite a bit. So for the person who owns a house that you did not work with in your top 50, the person who owns a house in your database, I want to know, who did they work with? What did their agent do well? What was missing with that relationship with the agent? If they were selling now, how would they decide on their representation? What would their process be? I'm trying to see if I have a shot in the world. If I find that they have an incredible relationship, this happened with some clients of ours here recently. His sister-in-law and his cousin were and someone in his wedding. All 3 of them were all realtors here in town. Sister-in-law, his cousin, and somebody who was in his wedding were all 3 realtors. Whoo, man, those are some strong relationships. None of the 3 would do what we would do. So he said, you know what, if I choose one, I'm going to tick 2 of them off. I'd rather not tick any of them off and just use a company that has a better value proposition. And he said, so I went back to them and I said, you're at RE/MAX, you're at Benchmark, and you're at Century 21. Your companies are not as good for my family as Scout. So I'm choosing Scout, not an individual, because I gave him a value versus the relationship. So when you ask these questions, you're trying to position yourself to be in the top 1, 2, 3 space in their mind. And you're trying, if you cannot win the relationship, win the value. That will keep you in the top 3. So from there, I want to know when would they most likely sell? if you find out that their kid is in the 4th grade and once their kid goes to middle school, they do not want to send their kid to, say, JT Moore Middle. Right now, they're happy in Glendale, they're happy in Julia Green, but they're not going to go to JT Moore Middle. They may be about to make a different decision when it comes to middle school. So if you know when they're thinking to sell in 2 years, hello, that person is going to go in my 2-year, I'm 24 months out. I'm 16 months, or I'm 18 months out. I'm 12 months out. I'm 6 months out. I want to start to group people in the time frame by which they think they're going to move. And then last is I want to know what their make us move price is. Is there a number right now that you would absolutely ruin your life and wreck your family and like, honey, we got to get out. We're going to stay at a Holiday Inn. I don't know. We're going to figure out. Is there a number that you would say yes to? I got to know that number. And I'm trying to get 50 people to give me their make us move price. Then I'm trying to get to 100 people. I'm trying to get to 150 people. If you start to list build your make us move price, now you got something to work from. Sometimes their make us move price in this market, because things have gone so crazy, is actually right in alignment with what value should be. The goal here is, would they interview as a potential agent? If they would not interview as a potential agent, you do not want to waste 30 minutes ever in your business day on that person. Okay? Not going to buy from you. Not going to work with you. No way, no how, no way ever. Move on. Find another person. Okay? It's like if you're selling barbecue to a vegan restaurant, they're just not going to be your customer. It's okay. There's plenty of other people who love barbecue. Like, move on. Last is, do they know your value proposition? So when you're meeting with these people, you clearly want to communicate your value proposition and what Scout's value proposition is, because that's going to give them a different element in how they evaluate you as a representative. So what I would say, I did this last week. I told someone my value proposition. They told me that they had agents that they were friends with. And I said, man, you know what? I can help you win with your friends. Here's what we do. We're not really that close of friends. Here's what we do. Just take what Scout does and then go tell your friend, because if they're really your friend, they'll do exactly what we'll do. And he's like, wow, I don't know if my friend would do that. They think pretty highly of themselves. They think that they're worth it. I said, well, this is my offering. Go get them to price match it. Go get them to give you what they, and he's like, oh man, if they don't, I'm coming back to you. I want to help you set you up for success. So these goals right here is, I want to make sure I get an interview. I want to make sure they know my value proposition. Any questions on this and the importance of our one-on-one meetings and what the conversation is going to look like in the one-on-one meetings? All right. So here in our plan, go ahead, Dawson.
At what point do you have to establish that like this is a business call as opposed to like a relationship call? Because I know there's several friends that we have that you never want to just like over jump that fence. You never want to push that boundary between that business. That's just figuring out who the top 50 is, or is that, at what point can you tell like, oh gosh, this isn't going anywhere, or I don't want to overstep my boundaries?
So you know where you're at in the relationship with each one of them. So I would say we're going to draw a firm line in the sand right now, and we're going to start this relationship off right now as a business call. Everybody this month going forward is business. Now, in September, the last couple of times I've talked, this time it's just a personal call. So you start to benchmark. Everyone knows what I'm doing and has heard me clearly on business. And then I'm going to start to maybe be a month on business, month off personal, month on business, month off personal. You're going to know whenever you've drifted too far from business into personal and when you need to get back to business. And you're going to know where you are if it's too much business. So I would just say that's where the art comes in. There's some people that I'm like, you know what? I really have not been as intentional about business with them in probably like a year and a half. I need to sharpen the knife and I need to go and be business. So remember I said yesterday, your calls are only a setup for the face-to-face. Your calls, they're not necessarily business or personal. They're set up for face-to-face. If you have some time with them over lunch, it's going to be both. So in the call, that's why I say the purpose of my call is I want to schedule lunch with you. I want to spend some time at lunch. And at lunch, I'd love to hear how you're doing. I want to catch up. It's been too long. Secondly is I want to hear a little bit about your work and what's going on and tell you a little bit about what I'm doing at work. And three, I want to find a way for us to benefit one another's business and life. like kind of set a framework and agenda for the meeting, and you can weave those in that meeting. But the call is neither. It's a setup is the way I look at it.
And you can know from the feedback you get, asking those type of things, how it's going.
Mhm.
I think just having a meeting like this, this is something that I've failed in the past. I just wanted to touch base because, well, I'm probably not being the friend I need to be for you.
Mhm.
I mean, based on where that relationship is. And, I'm just thinking about, our value proposition. I mean, my daughter, Courtney Redfin, I come from that. She listed with us because literally our value proposition was better than Redfin's. And the Redfin's is really strong. And she went that way just because it was the best thing for them. And when Redfin goes, what are you doing? It was like Scout had a better product than what we have. And you tell us to do what's best for us.
Mhm.
So, I mean, that's just the confidence level we can have going in. No one can beat us. We got the greatest product.
Yeah.
It's out there. And just to be able to exude that type of a confidence with a customer, right there.
So you're going to get your planner, your quarterly planner, and this is the way the database is going to fit in. So you'll see this, but this is the way we want you to build your database. And you'll notice in this far right-hand side, your personal grade 1, 2, 3, your business grade ABCs. So whenever you go into your new month, you just hit the ascending and descending button, and it should top grade them quickly for you. This is now my call list. I know exactly how to move through this list this month. You may even get somewhat sophisticated on it and say, I'm going to have my master list in the Google Doc sheet, and I'm going to clone this list into the next tab and tab that is July. Clone it, August, and now I can start to see, here's exactly what I'm doing for people month over month over month over month over month. So prospecting, this is where it gets fun. Some people are scared of cold calling. Cold calling doesn't have to be so cold whenever you have a great reason to call. So I want us to think about our Dream 100. Dream 100 is like, I don't have a relationship with them, but man, it'd be a dream to have the relationship with these 100 people. So reminder, 89% of the people do not use the agent that sold them the house. So it should be a field day for most people. You should be able to go win that business fairly easily, even if they've worked with someone. So when we talk about prospecting, you have it in front of you, so this is pretty small. The first thing is an event. Get involved in 3 weekly or monthly small groups. So the recommendation is to join or build a networking group, a book club, an alumni associations, a church, a charity, a kids school, kids activities, your neighborhood HOA, join a board, an organization, go to the gym, get on a team. Pick 3 things this quarter that I'm going to do. And the point is I'm going to start to prospect in that. So if you have a kid that's on a soccer team, there's 18 other kids, you know what? We're going to kick off the season, and I'm going to, under the pavilion, I'm going to have a lunch for all the families after the game. I'm going to start off, and I'm going to get to know 18 people, and I want to get all their email addresses, and we'll say, hey, I want to schedule the cookout to kick off the season, or the cookout to end the season, or I want to have something at my house. Everybody give me your email, and I'm going to start to give a list of like who can bring what. That's great. You started list building, and that season is going to start and stop, and now you had a sample size to get in relationship for this season. So finding a group that there is some sort of event or gathering is really, really, really invaluable. I would say have at least 3 of those going every quarter. And if you go to church and have kids, that should be super simple almost to just plug in where you're already at. But there needs to be a level of intentionality, whether you're joining something or whether you're starting something. I think starting something to do it on a very small level should be one of the 3 things that you've chosen to do. Even if it's simple as is walking at Radnor on Saturday morning and breakfast afterwards, something that simple. From there, mail. So farming your neighborhood, you get to pick what your neighborhood farm is going to look like. But I strongly recommend going online on the tax records and pulling the list of addresses to your neighborhood and say, okay, this is my sample size. Where we emailed our top 50, where we emailed our past client list, our CMAs, we don't have our neighborhood's email addresses. So we're going to start off by mailing your CMA every 6 months. I recommend including a cover letter with data points. So you just don't want to say, hey, neighborhood, blows the recent home sales. You want to write a form letter. The very first page is very well constructive, like, hey, friends, or hey neighbors, I'm a realtor in this neighborhood. I've been here for this many years. This is how many houses I sell. This is how long I've been in business. Whatever points would affirm your professionalism. I wanted to things are moving so fast. I wanted to communicate what's happening in our own backyard. Here's some things that I think is interesting that's happening in our backyard. Here's where I think things are going. Here's what I think this means to you. If you ever wanted to, and then there's a clear call to action in. If you ever want to have a conversation about what this means to your house, whether you're trying to get a home equity line of credit, the reason I'm using the home equity line of credit to pay off your mortgage interest deduction is because not everybody's ready to sell a house. And man, I don't want to talk to this realtor if they're just going to try to sell my house. I'm not ready to sell. I'm trying to give them other reasons that I can talk to them. So mortgage interest deductions, improvements to a house, getting a home equity line of credit, doing a refinance, or potentially selling or potentially buying. These are 6 things that could be interesting for you as you evaluate this data. So if you want to know how this impacts you directly, here's my cell phone. You know, you may get super aggressive and decide, I want to be like the community ringleader here. Thinking about doing an open house, or not open house. I'm thinking about doing a yard sale, and I want to see if we want to have a community yard sale Saturday. And if we all do it together, we're going to drive a whole lot more traffic into the neighborhood. So send me an email. Here's my email address. Love to do a neighborhood yard sale all at one time to see if we can't drive more traffic for all of us. Hey, there's a fall festival. I want to hold at the clubhouse. There's an open field. Like, I want to get to know our neighbors. So we're going to block off our cul-de-sac and have a barbecue in this court. I've already talked to my 5 neighbors in the cul-de-sac. We're doing a barbecue. So you get to be as creative as you want to with your neighborhood, but you need to have a reason to farm, and you need to have a reason to mail. So I'm looking to mail first. I'm looking to get to cell phones and email second. Once I get cell phones and email second, they get put in my general database, and they're probably going to start off as a 3. And over time, I'm going to learn if they're A, B, or C. Hopefully over time, I get to move them from a 3 to a 2 or a 2 to 1. I mean, you may have a really awesome person that lives right around the corner from you that you would have never known. But that's what you're going to do in the mail. The next thing in mail is you want to leverage the listings to target potential sellers in the neighborhood, leverage buyers to get their desired neighborhoods. So what I mean by this is if you have a listing in a neighborhood, we just listed a house, the next door neighbor for Jacob Matthews, when he sold, his next door neighbor, because of that, wanted to sell their house. So your listing, if you're mailing, everyone in that whole neighborhood needs to know that you listed that house. So direct mail is very effective for that. Mail can get expensive depending on how big your geographic area is. So I would suggest picking a sample size that's big enough for you to actually manage. Could you pick 3,000? You could, but you probably can't manage that. Could you manage 500? That's actually going to be pretty hard. I would say somewhere around 100 or 200 right around you. I'm really going to make sure that these people know that I exist. The Dream 100 prospect list, I'm going to give you a framework in the coming slides, but the prospect list is twofold. First off, it's people that I want to get in relationship. Like, I've heard of their name. I know of that person. I don't know them, but I want to know them. And then the next thing is businesses. So business development. What are 50 businesses that I want to get in relationship with? So 50 and 50. The business development is the next thing. So we want to build a target list of 50 companies. Each one of you should have a target list of 50 companies. You should have 5 business development categories and 10 target companies in each category. So here's what I mean by that. Financial planners is a category. Well, who is 10 financial planners in the financial planner category? Divorce attorneys. If someone's getting a divorce, they're probably going to sell a house. So category divorce attorney, I want to know 10 divorce attorneys. You know, HR could be a category. I want to identify what are the 10 largest companies in Sumner County. I want to look online and find out who is the HR manager at these 10 companies. And I want to start to look in my database to see who may have a contact with these people. I'm gonna start looking on LinkedIn, like, wow, I actually go to church with someone who's friends with them. How well do you know so-and-so? Oh yeah, we grew up together. Could you make an introduction? So you're list building 5 categories and you're putting 10 people in each category. And then last is for sale, by owner, and withdrawn. For sale, withdrawn and expires, there's not as many of those these days because things are just flying. But in the past, withdrawn and expireds are pretty good. For sale by owner, there's starting to be more for sale by owners. And because things are selling so fast, people are like, I'm just going to put it up for sale by owners and see what happens. So for sale by owners are really a good thing. Matt, how many for sale by owners have we scheduled in Chattanooga?
We're up to 13, 14.
So we've cold called for sale by owners in Chattanooga to test to see what would a different market even respond well to our offer. We don't have relationships then. How would they respond? They don't know nothing about Scout. Let's just cold call for sale by owners in Chattanooga. And we have scheduled 13 listing presentations in Chattanooga in the past week and a half. A week and a half? 2 weeks? 2 weeks. So a listing presentation a day for sale by owners in Chattanooga? So that's pretty unbelievable. That was a pretty effective test. So the point being is prospecting is cold calls, right? So here's the goal. You have 5 business accounts that send you predictable leads, which account for 20% of your business. We're trying to approach 10, or we're trying to approach a Dream 100 list. I'm just looking for 5 of them that will send me a volume of business. So my business development efforts are going to be people who can send a volume, not just one-to-one. It's like, hey, we just hired 3 new people. Can you help them find a place? Here's what your Dream 100 prospect list is going to look like. Again, you're going to receive this in your quarterly planner that you're going to get when you come back from 4th of July. You're going to see this top section. It says industry. You have 5 categories that you're going to decide which industry are you going to go fishing in. And then you're going to write down 10 business names or 10 businesses that you're going to reach out to and approach. So you're going to list build 50 targets. Then at the bottom, you just have prospecting targets. These are individuals that you do not have a relationship in that you want to have a relationship with. So, say for example, you go to Pure Barre and you say, you know what, if they're teaching class, they're probably connected to a group of girls if they're doing class 2 or 3 times a day or 4 times a day. And so if I know all the teachers in Pure Barre, there's a really good chance that those teachers are going to know a lot of the students. So I'm going to be intentional about getting to know the 15 instructors at Pure Barre over the next quarter. I'm going to look online and find out who are their instructors, and I'm going to fill out their instructors, and I'm going to start taking different classes at different times and get to know the different instructors. So prospecting is, who do I want to start to develop a relationship with that I'm not really in a relationship right now, and I want to be very intentional about reaching out to them. Think about at church. Do you have any leadership in the church that I know their name, but I don't really know them? You know, what are other small group leaders? Well, I know their names, but I don't really know them. Let's say for talking purposes, Thomas and Bree, y'all are thinking about having kids. And you say, you know what? For our personal life, it's important to us. Matt. Okay, or Matt. Matt's ready to have kids. So maybe you say, you know what? I really want to take this season over the next 6 months to start to get to know some older couples who have kids that can teach us how we could enter into parenthood in a very thoughtful, meaningful way. So from a personal standpoint, I want to start to develop relationships with some people because I want to learn how to be a better parent. If that works out to be business related, so be it. But we really know that this season of life, looking towards kids, it's really important for us to start to get to know some people who are a little bit farther ahead in what would you do and not do if you're thinking about having kids. So that prospect list is people who may be just a little bit farther down the road from you in your season of life. Prospect list could also be someone who's coming into your season of life that's not there yet. So you can look forward, you can look backwards. And then at the very bottom, groups and organizations. You have blanks for 3. I would pick 3 groups, so it says the name, 3 groups and organizations that you're going to be a part of this quarter. And then how many people are a part of that group or organization? So if there's 18 kids on the soccer team that you're playing at, Drake's Creek, there's 18 people on the kids soccer team. I'm gonna get to know 36 parents is the goal. If I'm gonna join a small group, there's only 6 of us that meet a small group. There's 6 people. So for the next quarter, this becomes our Dream 100 prospect list that we're going to start to work through to expand our network. So here's some business development ideas. Here's some target ideas. If you thought, man, what categories do I want to choose? Here's a smorgasbord. You get to pick 5 of these. Builders, banks, specifically in banks, anybody in private banking, anybody in asset management is a great bank target. Apartment managers, HR departments, relocation companies, estate companies, anybody who is doing an estate, the house will be getting sold. So you don't have to be a genius to say, who are the top estate companies in Nashville? Well, Bernice Denton is a big one. You know, Corduroy Horse, I think, is a website that does some estate sales. So pick Corduroy Horse. I know. So pick 10 estate sale companies. They're going to sell the crap out of the house, and then they're going to sell the house. Take the furniture. Get rid of all this stuff. We got to get this house ready to sell. Well, they're going to call the estate company first to come and evaluate the stuff. I want a relationship with a estate company, and I want to find a way to make this a win-win for the state. If you went to a estate company and said, I'm curious, do you guys ever have just stuff left over that did not sell? Every single house, there's stuff that did not sell. What if I work out a deal with you? What if I give you $1,000 or $500 to buy stuff? And I don't even want the stuff. Send it to Habitat. But if you refer me and they list the house with me. So you're trying to get the house. I just want you to introduce me to the heirs that are going to be settling this estate. So you have to start to think about estate companies. They're going to sell this house next after they get rid of this stuff. I want to know 10 companies that are estate companies. Large employers. Anybody who's a large employee base, you can do an employee benefits program. You can do lunch and learns. You could help them with their relocations. I mean, so large employers would be the next one. Financial planners, lawyers. So estate attorneys, bankruptcy attorneys, divorce attorneys. Those 3 types of attorneys are in a moment of change in people's lives. In moments of change, people may make real estate decisions. Recruiters and recruiting company. Anybody who's doing healthcare recruiting, IT recruiting, physician recruiting, sales recruiting. I mean, there's so many different recruiters out there. Okay, well, that should be on your Dream 100 list, is to get to know recruiters. And whenever y'all place someone in Nashville, I want to help introduce them to the city. Business owners, business leaders, influencers, and then unions and associations. So it could be the Fraternal Order of the Police. It could be the teachers union. Man, that would be a great fish, or a great pond to go fish in when we talk about business development, to do a presentation for the Fraternal Order of Police. Do our Everyday Heroes program, or the teachers union. That's a great group of people to do a program with. So starting to think about business development and prospecting through the lens of, these are pools of people that you have a message that could directly impact those folks. So here's some business development strategies. Step 1 is I want you to identify business targets. So I just gave you a framework to identify the business targets. Step 2 is I want you to look to get referred in. Thank God for LinkedIn. LinkedIn will show you who has relationships with people. And you can find out, I'm looking to talk to the HR director at Dollar General. You go look on Dollar General to see who's in HR. And now I'm looking at anybody who's in HR, and I'm looking at my connected list. And I'm saying, who do I know in HR? Hey, I've got 3 or 4 people who are connected to a couple people in HR. Surely to goodness, there is a strong connection between one of these folks. You can even take that and then dump it in Facebook, a connection there. So you're looking to get referred in. And if I knew that Mel, if you knew a particular financial planner, I could say, hey, Mel, Jonathan here. I'm looking on LinkedIn. I see that you're friends with so-and-so. Do you know them well enough to make a warm introduction? I want to know that person. Yeah, I got his cell phone number. I can text you an introduction right now. Thank God. Now I've identified them. I knew exactly who knew that person. I've gone straight to Mel. Mel's now referred me in. Next thing is I want to set an appointment. I don't want to just talk to them on the phone and tell them everything that I want to do. Hey, is there a time that I can come by your office, or would you be up for grabbing coffee one morning for, say, 30 minutes? You tell them exactly what you want on the phone. Do not say, I'm looking to get to know you. Mel said you're a good guy. No. You're in this position at your company, and I have an incredible value proposition as a real estate company. Here's why I want to meet with you. I want to ask you some clarifying questions about your needs, any sort of problems that you have in regards to real estate, any sort of, like I did this one time with Lifeway, and they were getting poached with their employees. Employees were getting poached to go to other companies, and they could not pay their employees more money because they were maxed out at that time. Well, they were looking for an advantage for their employees to retain them. So their thought was, man, if they can the program didn't end up working out. But point was, their mind was like, man, if we could roll out an employee benefits program to where we can do some sort of discount on housing if they work with Scout, that may help give some stickiness to our employee base. So whenever you set the appointment, you want to be very clear about, I like to meet with you for these reasons. When we meet, I like to talk for these reasons. So identify their need, not on the call, in the appointment. Once you get that face-to-face, identify their need. Make sure that you have clearly communicated your value proposition to their company, to their position. Like let's say that HR director says, we have a retention percentage number that I have to hit. And their job's line if they don't hit the retention percentage. And they are feeling like their employees are getting poached. Well, let's run a program. Let's run a program. I want to come alongside of you and help people to buy houses. If they're renting an apartment complex, they may get their lease. They may decide to move to Chicago or move to Denver. They may not stay in Nashville. If people buy a house in Nashville, they may stay stickier to Nashville, which means they may stay stickier to your company. So find a way to add value to that person. Find a way to add value to that company. Next is solve their need. Whatever that need is, whatever they tell you, you're looking for a way to solve it for them. Then you're looking to deliver a memorable experience. So memorable experiences can come in so many ways, whether that's at lunch, whether that's in your follow-up, whether that's in a gift, whether it's in a handwritten note. I mean, find some way to make sure that they feel that this was not just a one and done, average, boring meeting. Make sure that you're standing out. And then follow up. Follow up. So you may ask someone, hey, would you be the decision maker for a program like this? Is there anybody else who you would need to include in this? Yeah, you probably need to talk to a couple people in my department. Can we have a meeting with those 3 or 4 people in your department? Can I come by and bring a presentation? What would be important for them to hear in that meeting? So your follow-up would be the last thing in your business development strategy. Any questions around business development before we move to prospecting? Okay, prospecting strategies. I want you to time block 2 hours a day, 2 hours. I mean, again, you have some creative liberties here, but prospecting to really be effective at going after your Dream 100, you're going to need to block a couple hours a day until you get 3 or 4 closings a month from them. Like if you're trying to establish a channel account that's referring you volume of leads, it's not going to be a microwave. You're really going to have to put the work in. Next thing is have targets that you want to connect with and ask your database to make connections. Communicate your value proposition to each contact. They must know how you can benefit their lives or their work. Next is have a plan when you connect and make an ask. So Dawson, you asked in the break about personal versus business. This is business to business development. This is straight going for it. Be a connector, make strong introductions. If you can't solve their need, if it's outside of real estate, maybe there's like, Dawson, I don't know that we have a budget right now to even think about real estate, or we have our agenda for the quarter, so this is not something that we could think about till next quarter. But if you know of anybody who wants to take a job, we need someone to fill this role. Okay, I'm going to go find someone to help you fill that role that's outside of my job description. I want to be a giver. I want to make sure that I hear you loud and clear and I help solve a problem. Then follow up after the connection, and then look to add value after the connection. So these are the prospecting strategies that I would recommend whenever you're working on your Dream 100 and in addition to your business development list. So here's some pro tips, prospecting pro tips. Research your target. I want to know as much about them as I possibly can. I think it's super cool whenever I've gone to lunches, this happened to me on Wednesday, is to when he had some pointed questions about my past. Hey, I looked online and I noticed this. Tell me a little bit more about that. Tell me a little bit more about Homes for Homes. I appreciate the fact that he actually took an interest in me and was prepared for the conversation. So do a little bit of research. Hey, I saw that you were at this company and you left that company after 3 years. What did you learn when you were at that company? Why did you leave that company? What would they have had done to keep you there? So dig in a little bit. Schedule the appointment, have a meeting agenda, take notes, listen for life change, talk 20% of the time and asking questions in that 20% of the time, and then take the action based on the appointment or the call. Those would be my prospecting tips. Have you ever been asked, the question is, so what do you do? What do you do? That seems to be a pretty popular question when people say, what do you do? And because we get that question so frequently from people who do not know us, we typically don't have a structured response to what do you do? We typically like, oh, I sell real estate. That's not what they're actually asking. What they should be asking is, what do you do that could be beneficial to me, right? Because if you say I sell real estate, I'm a realtor, I work in the real estate industry, they are immediately going to take you and they're going to put you in a classification in their mind of how they see the world through real estate. Oh, realtors, I've my last realtor, you're one of them. Oh, you're probably part-time, you're one of them. Like whatever their classification in their brain is, if you say this is actually what I do, I'm a realtor, they're going to immediately drop you in that chunk. So I don't want to be pigeonholed and put in a box from the very first word go. I really don't want that to happen. I want to dictate what box that I land in. So when I went to lunch on Wednesday with the guy that did the research, I am not going to get in the realtor box in his brain. So here's a framework that I think is really important to communicate what you do to your prospect list. Start with what you believe. And I'm going to give you the framework, and then I'm going to give you an example about how I would answer that question. Start with what you believe, move to why you believe it, then move to what you do because of this belief, pivot to how you do it differently from others, show evidence of success as to who you've done this for, and have a clear call to action. So as you're creating your unique value proposition and people say, Dawson, what do you do? Or Thomas, what do you do? I want to start to have kind of an elevator pitch as to how I'm going to respond to what do you do. So if someone asks me, I may respond in something like this. Hey man, what do you do? You know what? 2/3 of American homeowners' net worth is tied up in their house. And after 18 years, it's not like exact formula, but I'm combining it. After 18 years of real estate, I've learned something. That homeowners who have built their net worth, it's really important for them to retain it because they have lifestyle needs. So I help people preserve their net worth. The real estate industry would say something silly like, I connect people to their dreams. I don't want to get put in that bucket. I help people like you preserve their net worth. So I believe that it's really important that we measure success not based on what we take from people, but what we give to them. And so we made a bold decision in our company to stop paying ridiculous real estate commission for clients to stop paying us ridiculous real estate commissions to sell their house. And every time I say this, people start going, like, it's almost like, wow, yes. So I'm kind of talking, I believe you have built your equity. You should keep it. So whenever I kind of go through this, I'm like, so that's what I do. So do you or anybody you know need what I have to offer? So like, I'm not telling them what I do. I'm telling them what I believe and how I benefit them, what I'm offering them. And it has become in the past year, like used to, I just didn't really have that great of an answer. It's like, I'm trying to like be as quick as I can to get them to, basically pay me the same way as they pay everybody. Now it's gotten super easy. Now I get to just say, that's how I benefit you. And it has taken off in my conversations. The more conversations you have and people walk away, they know your value proposition and your offering. That's why the girl yesterday referred a listing who I took to Tony Robbins, making sure she knows what we do. Ironically, her friend has just closed on a house that I have not talked to in probably 10 years. But I talked to her husband about what we do. He was a business. He sells security systems like IT security. He came by, wanted to talk to us about what we do, what he does, that business to business connection with him. He's like, man, I got a bunch of real estate agents. When I sell my house, you're selling it. So I sold it. His wife now reminded her friend who went to Tony Robbins what we do. So it starts to snowball the more conversations and connections that you have. So that's why I would want you to move beyond what do you do to what you believe, move to why I believe it. I think when I say, I think it's so important for you to keep the money in your pocket that you built. And I'll give you a quick tip. I have seen massive, massive connectivity whenever I tell people like, hey, especially to a guy, man, you've probably mowed the grass at your house Saturdays for years. And they start going, and you've probably been to Home Depot and Lowe's a time or two. to do your do-it-yourself projects. And you guys have been paying your mortgage payment every month. For how many years have you lived in your house? 5, 60 times. You have paid 60 times on your house to build your equity. Every month, you're chipping away at your principal. Every month. You paid your insurance. You paid your taxes. You have literally built your equity. You may have a supreme financial need in the future or maybe even now. When you go to sell that house, you are going to erode your equity. And I want to help you keep more of it in your pocket. And I want to make sure that you receive a full service experience for a fair fixed fee. So when I start to tell them why I believe it, why it's important for them to when they start to think about them mowing that grass on Saturday and they sweat, it makes it a whole lot easier for them to connect to the reason why they need to keep that in their pocket. So I kind of give you a framework here so you can wrestle with this on your own and come up with how you're going to answer the question, what do you do? I would encourage you to not answer the question in the way that they mean it. They're trying to drop you in a bucket. Answer the question in a way that you can communicate value. So you get to determine how you want to answer that question. Any thoughts on this? Don't answer their question. Give them your answer. And your answer is how you benefit them and why you benefit them and why you believe it and what mission that you're on. And then you tell them. So if you or anybody you know would appreciate this or resonate this, I want to talk to them. And man, by pushing them to that level, it's like clockwork. I get referrals. So when people refer you business, you need to recognize them immediately. Remember I said yesterday, reward the behavior that you want to receive? That's why I say they give you a lead, immediately I want to reward it. Immediately I want to reward it. Because you're like, wow, it's like Pavlov's dog. When the bell rings, they want the food. You know, I want them to like, wow, that's a really nice response. I really appreciate Jonathan, you know. So for them, it's simple as a handwritten note, simple as a phone call. You may want to get a little bit more advanced in a gift, but I would say that at least at closing is the gift. I kind of like to make it a little bit sooner, but at least at closing, send them something. $5 Starbucks card. It doesn't have to be much, but make sure you're communicating with that referral source. When to do it. All right, so we have an ideal schedule. Monday morning meeting sets the tone of your entire week. A lot of times people do not have a plan for Monday morning. I anticipate Monday mornings. I love Monday mornings because to me, I've kind of got an agenda that I want to get after. So to get out of the bed and get going, to me, it's pretty easy to get up and going. But I have a plan. Years ago, I had no plan. I had no like anticipation for the week to come. And I wake up, I was like, oh gosh, what do I want to do today? Like, I don't really have any clients right now. Like like everybody's on vacation. There's really not much to do. And I'm kind of just pittering. what am I going to do? So I want to set the tone of the week by a Monday morning meeting. In your planner that you're going to receive after the 4th of July, you're literally going to have your 13-week planner. It's a quarterly planner, and it's going to give you 13 Monday morning frameworks that you're going to work through. So there is basically 10 things that you're going to handle every Monday morning. One is, what are you grateful for? I think that the very first thought that you have Monday morning is so vital and important, because if you wake up Monday morning and you're like, oh man, I don't even know what I'm gonna do this week. Just like everybody's out of town, just like when's my next closing coming? If you start the Monday morning off with like a downward worry thought versus like, hey, I'm grateful for this. You know what, this morning when I was putting on my socks, I was sitting there on a chair and I was putting on my socks and I thought, I am so thankful. I saw somebody the other day that was in a wheelchair that cannot walk. And I thought, man, and this may seem kind of stupid. I was sitting there in a chair and I'm like wiggling my toes and moving my feet. I'm like, I just want to thank you, God, for letting me have feet and toes and that I can actually walk. Thank you, God, for the ability to put my socks on, because this is not something I want to take for granted. There are people out there that cannot do this. There's people out there that this would be a miracle morning to put your socks on. And I just don't want to move into the day without gratitude that I can put my socks on and I can walk out this door and I got purpose and mission. Thank you, God. You know, if you want success and be a multimillionaire, some multimillionaire would give it all away to be able to walk out their front door if they were in a wheelchair. So we got it good, guys. We got it so good. So to set the tone of your morning, to set the tone of your week, you got to start off on what are you grateful for? Praise God. We got so much to be grateful for. I want to set this week off on that note. Then I want to move into it's like, what is 3 big wins from last week? I want to look back and be like, man, this was great. I won here. I won here. I won here. I did a good week. I had some good things going on. And then I want to start to learn. It's not all going to be rainbow and sunshines. But if you're like, oh, I failed here. Oh, this didn't go well. Oh, that crazy buyer. Oh, that crazy seller. That agent on the other side, I'm so frustrated. No. What could you learn? We all reserve the right to get smarter. So what could we look back on last week and I can learn from this? So now I'm going to stand on top of that failure. I'm going to stand on top of that problem. I'm going to stand on top of that adversity. Then I want to review last week's mastery tracker and lead tracker. So you guys in our quarter, you're going to have some framework that's going to say, did you make your 10 calls today? Who did you call? Have you written your notes? Who did you write it to? You're going to have some frameworks by which you can use all quarter long. So we want to review what happened last week and what needs follow-up this week. From there, I want to know, did I complete my 3 rocks from last week? Each week, there should be 3 things I'm committing this week. If I don't get anything else done, there's 3 things I'm going to do. So I'm going to look back at last week. Did I complete those 3 rocks? And then what actions last week outside of those rocks are incomplete that I need to make sure I finish this week? So we need to look forward on Monday morning. We need to look backward on Monday morning. We need to look forward. From there, I want to review my active client list. So in our quarterly planner, you're going to go to your active client list and you're going to look through and you're going to say, is there any status changes that need to happen? Is there anything that needs to be updated in the revenue log? So in the planner, you're going to have a revenue log that's going to track your earnings. So my Monday morning meeting, here's my active clients. They went into contract, update my revenue log. They decided to wait to list till next year. Take them off. But I got 2 leads that I want to add into my active. So every Monday morning, we're updating our active client list. We're updating our revenue log. From there, you're going to review your goals. So you got goals for the year. I want to keep those top of mind. So there's going to be a goal review. I want to review your weekly checklist. So the very next slide is our weekly checklist, and the slide after that's our monthly checklist. I want to review my weekly checklist, and I want to make sure that I'm committing this week to get these things done. You'll see that in just a second. I want to schedule this week's activities. So I just looked at my active client list. I just looked at my status changes. I just looked at my lead board. I just looked at my rocks. I'm actually going to go and I'm going to build out my schedule for this week. I probably have already got some things scheduled, but I'm going to start to fill in the blanks. Then I'm going to identify my 3 rocks this week. So I looked at my rocks last week. What did I do? I'm looking forward to this week, what I'm committed to. From there, I want to make sure that I'm not just getting stagnant. I want to keep sharp. So what am I going to read, watch, and listen? So there may be a podcast. There may be a YouTube video. There may be a chapter in a book. You know what? This week when I drive to work, this is the podcast I'm listening to on the way that I drive to work and when I drive back. So I'm just going to keep the knife sharp. I'm going to keep growing. I'm going to keep expanding my capacity to add value to people. Then from there, I'm going to update last week's results. So you're going to see a page that's going to show you, maybe I have it here, tracking tools. We don't have it on this slide, but you're going to see that there is a results calculation, and every week you're starting to add up your results from last week, adding up your results. So you get to the end of the month, you're like, wow, I made this many phone calls this month. I made this many appointments this month. Here's my conversion percentages on my appointments. Here's my conversion percentage of my leads. You have your results, so you know what's working and not working. You're going to have a very clear framework to operate from. I'm going to keep going or take a break? Okay, let's take 5 minutes, and then we're going to finish strong. We're almost done. So close. through all of these, but I want to give you a framework. We have talked about what do you do. So you make phone calls, you email, you mail. We've talked about who do you do it to. So we've talked about your top 50, your past clients, your database, your business development. We've talked about when you do it, on Monday, on monthly, on weekly, on quarterly. So we've talked about this who, when, what. So we took all of this and combined it together into this is a weekly checklist. Every week, should be what's going to get done. So let me just give you a quick peek behind the curtain here. A lot of tabs. So we took this weekly checklist that you're seeing and we broke it down. What do you need to do on Mondays? And so we took that list and we said, okay, here's all the things that we would recommend doing on Mondays as it relates to connecting with the who, what, when. And then we said, okay, well, what would you do on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday? So when you get your quarterly planner, we've broken it down per day. So that weekly checklist is broken up in this is your Monday activities, this is your Tuesday activities, this is your Wednesday activities. Keep in mind, this is like a buffet. You get to choose what makes sense for you and what doesn't. You get to do it or not do it. But there is no way that you can wake up Monday morning and not know what you could or should be doing. And we've put it in its ideal day. So in the Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday framework, I believe that Monday should be wrapping up from the weekend and preparing for the week. So that day is kind of preparing your week ahead. So you don't have a lot of time to schedule meetings on Monday. And on Friday afternoon, you're preparing for your weekend, so you're wrapping up your week. So when you look at like Wednesdays and Thursdays, those 2 days are designed to have to be more meeting heavy. Tuesday is designed to be more in office or in work mode, working on your business because you're doing your client update calls. So each day kind of naturally has a theme and the activities have been grouped together in the day. So I'm not going to go through every single activity. We've actually covered all of this as we've talked about when we do it, what we do it. You're just going to see it all now combined and it's going to be grouped into the day. So you are going to be issued after the 4th, your quarterly planner. And we really have done what I feel like is an incredible job of building that framework to follow. And you get to decide if you want to do it 80%, 20%, 100%. But it's very, very, very clear. So these weekly activities, this is all the activities we want to see people do on the week at its 100% level. We've broken it up in a per day basis. And then you get to decide if that makes sense for you, whether or not you want to do it or not. The monthly checklist, I do actually want to spend a little bit of time on this because the monthly, there is a whole lot to do per month. And there's going to be months to where you literally just cannot get to it all. And it's not meant for you to get to it all. It's meant to say, this is your buffet. You get to pick 3 toppings. What do you want on your pizza, right? I want pepperoni and peppers and tomatoes. Just pick your toppings and leave the rest. Each month, though, as you enter into August, you shouldn't be like, man, what am I going to do this month to get my business going? That should not even be a thought in your head. You should know exactly this is what I do to get my business going. So the first is we want you to plan your strategy of connecting with your Dream 100. So you enter into the month, what's my strategy this month to connect to my Dream 100? Am I going to start to try to do lunch and learns at companies? Am I going to start to prospect with top employers? Am I going to start to get to know divorce attorneys or bankruptcy attorneys? Plan your month. What do you want to do? Next is we want you to plan your monthly events. So this is a dinner party, your dinner club. This is a happy hour. This is a birthday party. So August 1st, do you want to have a happy hour this month? Yeah, I want to do it on the 28th. Great, plan it on the 28th. It's coming up. I've got 2 of my top 50 people that I love deeply that have been so good in my business. Their birthday is later on this month. I want to host a birthday party at my house for them. I want to celebrate them. I want to call them and say, hey, I want to do something really thoughtful for you. In the next 3 weeks, you have a birthday party. Is there a night that you would love to be celebrated? I'd like to take 10 people to dinner. So plan your month looking ahead, pick 3 of these items. The next one may be plan a weekly small group. We talked about your small groups, maybe a networking group. It could be a book club. It could be alumni association. It may be just as simple as we're going to have a backyard barbecue throughout college football season, and we're going to plan out the next 10 weeks to make sure that we have a bounce house, burgers on the grill. We're going to start every Saturday at 10 o'clock. We're going to pick up at the CBS game. We're going to make this a day affair. And everybody that we feel like is in our top 50 is going to be invited, our past clients, and we're just going to make a free-for-all. You get to decide if that's your jam. From there, plan to host a seminar or schedule a speaking engagement. So August 1st, July 1st, I need to talk to someone this month. I'm going to host a lunch and learn. So I'm going to send out an email and say, register for my lunch and learn. I'm going to talk about the national market, what's driving the national market, what's some statistics you should be aware of. And I'm just going to pick a restaurant. It's room for 15. I'm going to invite 15 people. First 15 people, I'm buying your lunch, and I'll tell you what's going on in Nashville. That should be pretty easy. The next thing is email monthly market reports to your database. So you're going to need to, we're in July. Sometimes RealTracs takes a couple days, maybe like the 6th or 7th, before they tell what happened in the previous month. But as soon as those reports come out, start to communicate in a very direct way to your database. Even if you get a little bit more intuitive and you say, I'm going to record a BombBomb video about my analysis of the market, and I'm going to send this out to my database and tell them what's happening and what my interpretation of what that means to my database is. So it doesn't have to be just simply a shared square on social. You may do a 59-second Instagram story to where you're saying, hey guys, there's 3 numbers you need to know in Nashville. Number 1, things are up, prices are up 22%. Number 2, inventory is down 17%. Number 3, there's average of 143 people a day moving to Nashville. So what does that mean for you? If you're listening to this, this is what that means for you. Houses have never been more expensive than they are now. I have no idea what the value of your house is because, frankly, there's some crazy buyer that's going to come and tell you what the value is. I mean, like, you can be fun with it, but you get to be entertaining, you get to be informational, you get to be educational. So your monthly market report, find creative ways to communicate that to your sphere of influence. Next is mail your total database 1 time per month. I talked about the letter of the heart. I've talked about informational postcards. I've talked about educational evidence of success. I've talked about a newsletter. So it's the 1st of the month. Do you want to send out a mailer to your database? What is that mailer going to be? When is it going to go out? What do you need to have got done before it goes out? The next thing is call your past clients. So it's the 1st of the month. Who bought from me 6 months ago? Who bought from me 3 months ago? Who bought from me a month ago? Next is host 2 events. This is on a quarterly basis from here down. So your 2 events, you may arrive at that month and say, I did that 3 months ago. I'm going to give it another couple months before I host another event. So your 2 top 50 events, you're going to be asking for 3 introductions from your top 50. That needs to happen every 3 to 6 months. So I would like to see your database grow from your top 50 at least by 150 people a year, if not 300 people a year. So it's just a way to check in. No, I've already done that. I need to let that go for a couple more months. I've got 75 people I still haven't connected with from the last time I did that. Build your ideal schedule. This is a way for you to check in with yourself once a month. As I enter into the school system, Misty, as the kids are going back to school, my calendar is going to change. Or they're coming out of school, my calendar is going to change. So each month, you need to start to give a different look and a different framework to your calendar for this month, this season. This is not scheduled events. This is your time blocking. I've got to drop the kids off from school, which means I cannot do Monday morning meetings in this way. I've got to pick the kids up from school. That means I cannot time block my time to work out. From there, we want you to email the comps to your top 50, email comps to your past clients, email comps to your top 50. You need to be doing this at least once every 6 months. So twice a year. If you want to be super aggressive, do it once every 3 months. Again, it's going to take you some time to do that. So you may only want to commit to doing that once every 6 months, but go deep every 6 months and give yourself a couple days to pull all those addresses and do all those comps and start firing off all those emails, because that's going to set the tone for the next couple weeks coming ahead. From there, I want you to mail your comps for your neighborhood. So if you happen to land in a month that it's time to get my comps from a neighborhood, I've already done my tax record, so I've got all my addresses. I'm going to comp it. This is going to be easy. I'm just going to have 235 CMAs that I've printed off for my mailer. I've got my 235 envelopes. Now I need to write them a letter explaining what does this mean to them, with a very clear call to action and a very easy way to get ahead of me on the scout letterhead with your face. I mean, we want it to be a really nice cover letter that they can call you. That would go out to your farming neighborhood. From there, your newsletter, this may be once every 6 months, but I gave you a slide from yesterday that had, here's a bunch of different things that you could include in a newsletter. Treat this like a smorgasbord. Pick 5, 7. Make it maybe 3 or 4 or 5 pages in this newsletter that you want to make sure goes out once every quarter. And then last is host a 3-month board of advisor dinner. Just pick 3 people at the minimum, preferably 5, up to 10 or 12 at the most, where you're presenting your business plan, you're presenting your goals, and you're asking for feedback for them to teach you. Well, have you ever thought about this? I can introduce you so-and-so. This board of advisors is helping you get ahead. You're feeding them, like this is something that it's a meeting. It's a sit-down conference table meeting. So that probably needs to happen every quarter. So it won't be every month, but this is the monthly checklist that you get to say, I'm picking these 2 or 3, 4 items. This is what I'm going to do this month, and I'm going to schedule it for this month. Here's some time blocking strategies. For your ideal calendar, you may choose to work on your business in the morning. So you may say, I'm not going to make calls in the afternoon. I'm going to be out in the field in the afternoon. I'm going to make calls in the morning. So in the morning, you work on your business. You work in your business in the afternoon. You may say, I only schedule meetings from lunch and on. I'm not going to screw up my mornings. So however you decide to time block it, it could be day by day. It could be half day by half day. Manage your interruptions by turning off your phone. Man, sometimes it's hard for me to stay focused and not get distracted. And as soon as I see my phone light up, I'm like, oh, what they want? So if you can turn off your Facebook notifications, if you can turn off your phone, if you can turn off your email and don't get boing, 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 stock updates or Apple News updates or whatever updates hit your phone, discipline your distractions. Turn that sucker off and stay totally focused on, I've got to get through my checklist. I've got to get through the things that I've committed to. Next is have a callback time. A couple times a day, this is when I'll call people back. So if people are calling me throughout, I'm going to have a clear callback time that I'm going to get back to folks. That would be a good time block thing. Next is schedule time to return calls or should be emails. Schedule time to return emails 2 times a day before lunch, before you go home. If you're time blocking your prospecting for 2-hour time blocks, I'm not going to have my email up and I'm like talking to them and I'm kind of like checking my email. Man, be all in on the prospecting calls, get to the heart of the matter, schedule the appointments. Don't bifurcate your attention where you're making your calls, but you're also on emails. So get really zoned in on when you email and when you don't. Limit your text with clients is another time blocking strategy. If I go through the day and I have some emails or some text messages from clients, I'm going to call them and respond to them via phone. If you looked at my text messages, there will be, how it's like white if it's somebody else and it's blue if it's you. There are quite a few clients that you could scroll through, and I'm not responding to any of them if you looked at my text messages. I always pick up the phone and call them. Like, I really want to make sure I'm getting full communication to them, not just half-assed text messages. So you do you, but I really feel strongly about communicating super clearly, and I just can't get that across in the text message. And I can't build rapport over text. And if this is a connections and business in a sense, I need to get as deep of a connection as I can with the people. Next is set expectations with clients when and how you communicate. Your client, if they start to text message you late at night, I tell you don't respond to them. And that may be hard if you've already started to respond to them. That's why in the buyer consultation and the listing to presentation, you set that expectation with them in that meeting about how you respond and when you respond, and they will start to honor that. I've had people, they'll call and leave me a voicemail and say, hey, I know you don't respond to voicemails this late at night, but let's try to talk first thing in the morning. Or I get a text message like, hey, I'm sure you're with your family, but if we can talk tomorrow, let's try to catch up in the first thing in the morning. So clients do a good job. If I'm available and I can respond, there's times I absolutely will respond, but I really want to make sure the client doesn't get off the rails, because sometimes they will, once you start, it just takes off. Next is 15-minute meetings with yourself in the morning to plan the day. If you don't have a way to set the intent of your day, sometimes you drift into the day. Sometimes you start to pitter away and you're just like 10:30 and you're like, oh man, what am I gonna do today? Like, this day is such a bust. I really want to have a hard start the meeting or start the day in a way and we've given you a framework in the quarterly planner. I'm not just saying figure out a way to do this. Our quarterly planner is going to structure your every single day. It is very restrictive. It's very tight. It's very regimented, which is like a straitjacket for some people. That's why you have the freedom to do with it what you want. If you don't want to do anything but color pictures, you can, but at least you never could say, I did not know what to do. I couldn't get back on track. I just feel like I'm not gaining momentum. Then last is schedule random dates on your calendar repeat. So time blocking strategies, if it's a home anniversary, you may forget, like they bought about a year ago. I'm not sure exactly. I want to know it was August the 17th was their home anniversary, so I can call them like, hey, I just want to call and tell you happy birthday, happy birthday. A year ago this time, we were sitting down at the closing table signing, and I just want to check in and see how's the last year been in your new home. So if you don't schedule those random dates, you're going to blow by home anniversaries all day long. If you find out that your client's anniversary was like their actual anniversary, because you're just talking in the car, yeah, we got married on Labor Day back in 2012. I'm going to plug that in. I want it to reoccur and just give me some prompts throughout the day. Because if I don't have a reason to call someone, all these prompts that have been loaded in are going to give me, man, how'd you know that? Man, you were paying attention. Yeah, it sure was. And if they all of a sudden get some sort of Tiffany's or the cookies at their door, the Tiff's treats, they get some Tiff's treats, happy birthday or happy anniversary. Wow, that girl is on it. She really, really, really pays attention. She listens. She schedules. I mean, she picked that up in a conversation in our car, and she sent us cookies. That was pretty impressive. So how do we do it? We've got some tracking tools that are included in the planner. The tracking tools are really to make sure that we're sowing seeds. So yesterday we talked about lead generation and sowing seeds and cultivating our ground. Here's what I want you to understand. The seeds that you sow this week are going to determine the harvest you're going to receive 3 months from now. So if you're like, man, it's just been a dry couple months. Actually, you didn't do something 3 months ago that this is a couple dry months. Unfortunately, we don't, for better or for worse, we don't have really tight feedback loops from our efforts. Like if you have e-commerce and you're like, I want to sell that mug, you can put it out there and like, hey, people are buying it today. If you decided not to post it today, then it would not have sold today. In real estate, it kind of covers a multitude of sins. Like let's say you had a couple closings last week and you took a week off. In a month from now, you're going to be like, man, where's my business at? Why things are kind of dry right now? It's because a month ago, you took a week off. So for better or for worse, we have to be so consistent and measured as how we're sowing seeds. Because if all we're looking for is harvest, that was really a reflection of what did or did not happen 3 months ago. So to make sure that we are very regimented and we're consistent at sowing seeds, we have our success trackers. You're going to get this in the manual, but the success tracker is going to be each day of the week and when you made your phone calls. Did you have your meetings? Did you write your handwritten notes? Did you have an event that you attended? Did you add contacts to your database? What was the number of leads that you got that week? What was the number of closing? Then how many hours a week did you work? This is a way for you to manage your entire week and measure your success. It should be compounding. We have the 13 weeks up here. It should be compounding week over week over week. Whenever I said in the Monday morning meetings that you're going to look at your results and you're going to add up your results, you're going to look back and say, this is what I did this week. This is what I didn't. So hypothetically, if Misty, let's say in October, November, you came to me or Mel and you're like, yeah, man, I just struggle in business. Like nothing's happening. Let's look at what you did 3 months ago and let's see, did we do enough at that time for right now for if it's not happening? If you did all the activities and it's not happening, then we're going to talk about more like the qualitative conversations. Well, when you met with these people, how was these conversations going? What was being communicated? Whenever you're doing your business development, were you talking about the benefit or the value that you could bring, or are you just getting to know them? Well, maybe we need to start to get a little bit sharper. This is what we can do for you versus like, I just want to build a relationship. Building a relationship hasn't converted. Telling them the value is converting. Or if we look back and nothing's happened, like Misty, I hate it, but you're not getting results because you didn't put seeds in the ground. This is a way for us to know if we're putting seeds in the ground. That's going to then produce our lead tracker. So when we get leads down here at the bottom, Now we're going to start to track the leads and what is our communication efforts to these leads on a weekly basis. The key to converting a lead is following up 7 times. If you get like just stone cold, like rejected, they do not answer your phone, they don't answer your text, that means nothing. That absolutely means nothing. There's a couple partnerships that we've been talking to that has not been very responsive in the last couple of weeks, and I'm like, what the heck? Why don't they answer the phone? And if I know, just people, it may be the wrong season of life for them to answer. But if winning's right, I want them to tell me no. I want them to tell me to get away. I want them to tell me, but until they say that, I'm not going to stop pursuing. I'm not going to stop calling. We're just going to keep on, right? Mike? Phone interview. We've gone through the phone interview earlier this week, but when I say a lead is not someone that says, oh, Dawson, I got a buddy thinking about buying a house. What's his name? John? John's going to buy a house. Cool. Yeah, tell him to give me a call. It's not a lead. A lead has a buyer or a seller phone interview attached to it. Like, I've actually talked to this person. This person has shown intent. This is not a hearsay. They have intentionality. Now, whether we get an appointment out, whether or not we work together or not, we'll find that out. But this person is going to buy or sell a house at some point in time with someone. This is a real lead. So the phone interview is a tool that's going to start this relationship off on the right foot. It's also going to, if you start to record that you have leads but don't have phone reviews, I'm going to doubt if you really have a lead. Then you have a revenue log in the back of your quarterly planner. You're going to get a revenue log. And so the revenue log is going to start to add up your pending, your active potential clients, your close, and you're going to start to be able to see where your money is coming from and at what time frame it's going to come in.
You should have a tax bucket.
Depends on how much expenses you're going to write off. I want to make a quick note on this. I just noticed this does not have the date. So I want to make sure that we have the date written in here of when the expected closing date is. That way I can start to forecast out August, September. Here's what's in the pipeline to close out expected earnings in those months coming ahead. So we just need to add that one column. So this is we got 3 slides and we're done. We talked about what we want to do. We talked about when we want to do it. We talked about who we want to do it to, and we talked about how we're going to do it. None of that can possibly happen if we have not built a firm foundation. I know this is pretty small. I hope you can read it on your paper. But the foundation checklist is this. If you don't put the rebar, the concrete in the ground, I cannot build a tower. So everything that we've explained will not happen if we don't do the foundation. So here's the foundations. You have to have a business plan. And by the way, this foundations, I'm so proud of our quarterly planner. Like when you get it, it's a thing of beauty. It's a book. Matt, go grab the full focus plan. Full focus planner. When you get this book, it's literally going to have these things outlined on it in the framework. I mean, you literally cannot mess it up. So the first thing that you're going to do is you're going to build your business plan. You're going to follow the framework. Number 2 is you're going to complete your database for your entire sphere of influence. So if you want a head start over the weekend, make sure you have your database for your entire sphere of influence. Thanks, man.
You're welcome.
So each person is going to be getting issued a quarterly planner. It's going to look just like this, except it's going to be spiraled. Sometimes I want them to lay open. This looks really cool, but I like it to lay flat. Almost like the listing presentations I gave y'all the other day. Those things don't freaking open. Yours will be spiraled, but it's going to look just like this. It's going to have the entire framework that we've gone over for the past 2 days of exactly when you do it, what to do, how to do it, and who to do it to. You're going to have a framework just like this to follow. So your foundation checklist, well, how do I know how to do all this stuff? It's all laid out right here. You're going to be able to get it done. So I want you to build your database, segment your database. I want you to write some template email copy for new database entries. So when you took someone out to lunch, yes, you want to write a handwritten note, but I want your email address and I want to send you some information about reaffirming what I do, what the value that what I do, maybe some testimonials like, hey, below are some clients who've worked with us and what they've had to say about us. Hey, as discussed, here's what we do for buyers. Here's what we do for sellers. It's just a template email of almost like introducing them to future weekly and monthly emails. I want you to choose your top 50. If you haven't done that, I want you to be very wise in selecting your top 50. I want you to build your ideal schedule for your morning routine. So you're going to get a framework for your morning routine. I want you to do that. I want you to have a consistent social audience. So if you have friends on Facebook that are not on LinkedIn, I think that's a missed opportunity. I think that you should start to look through your list and open up 2 tabs on your browser and make sure that those lists are the same, because some people are on LinkedIn, some people on Instagram, some people on Facebook. I want to make sure that when I communicate, I'm communicating to all people across those channels. So make sure you have a consistent social audience, especially on LinkedIn, because my call to action on LinkedIn is being putting more content out, and that stuff stays up longer. So you're going to get more attribution, maybe not as much engagement, but it's going to hang out there longer. Decide on your weekly email outline and your monthly newsletter. So you decide how frequently you want to communicate your email, whether you're going to do a market report, whether you're going to do your evidence of success letters. You need to build a list. The next thing is you need to build a list of your farming neighborhood. So how many addresses are you going to pull from the tax records? And I want you to put that in a Excel file. This is going to serve as your database for your CMA. You could do a CMA next week, write your cover letter, and get this out to your database. But if you don't, or to your farming area, but if you don't pull those addresses, then you don't have nothing to send to them. Next is I want you to join a neighborhood or community Facebook group. So does your neighborhood or does your community have a Facebook group? I want you to make sure that you've joined it, and I want you to start to get active in commenting within the group. There are some groups that I'm a part of, and I like how Facebook has started to put like top fan award. Like that means that they're really involved in a group. You get priority whenever you're a top fan in some of those groups. So you need to start to become a top fan. You need to start to become very active in those neighborhood groups, a contributor. Like start to post, start to comment. These are the sphere of influence that's going to receive your farming neighborhood. Like, oh yeah, I think that's the same person that keeps posting in our Facebook group. Mm-hmm. Yep, sure is. I'm trying to get it active. You can probably even add Nextdoor to that as well. So the next thing is build your communication system. You're going to get a framework in this book as our complete recommendation on communication. Inevitably, you or some people are going to say, I cannot make that many phone calls. I'm not going to make that many phone calls. If it's not 50 a week, commit to a number. 30? If you say I cannot meet with 15 people a week, commit to a number. Is it 5? So you get to decide what your communication system is. We have built this to be 100%. You get to decide what it's going to be specifically for you. So you may give yourself some grace and like, I'm meeting with 5 people a week. I'm only calling 20 people a week. I'm going to only host 1 event a month. But just do it. That's all I'm asking for, is to actually do what we've set out. So you build your communication system. From there, you're going to build your Dream 100 prospect list. I can't do it for you. We've given you a framework. You'll get this framework, and we've given you an option about what type of people should make it in that list. Next is I want you to start to think about asking people in your database, what's your make us move price? I literally want that complete database, and I want to know everyone's address, and I want to know what's your number. I want to know your number. Hey, I get it. You don't want to sell, but just for real, tell me the number. Like your house is worth $550,000 in Creve Hall. You're telling me you would not sell it for $800,000? Oh, for sure we'd say $800,000. Okay, good. What about $750,000? Yeah, $650,000? Yeah, if we got $650,000, I'd sell it. I'm just trying to get numbers attached to it, right? Next thing is, because if you found someone, it doesn't even have to buy it. I want to show them that if I have a prospective buyer and I say, hey, I have a list of off the market houses, and you show them your off the market houses list. Here's every home I know that I could sell it. So let's start to go through this list. Let's start to see what's available. If we start to have our Monday morning meetings and we all have our own list and we had a couple thousand addresses with Make Me Move numbers, I'm looking for somebody in Creve Hall. Well, I got somebody. They're not looking to sell, but they got to make us move number. Just the fact that we're showing our buyer that we have an off the market inventory, and the fact that we're showing potential sellers that we have active buyers, good stuff can start to happen when you have that. The next thing is ask for 3 introductions and referrals from your past clients. got to build a foundation with past clients. It's time to start asking for business from them. We served them. We need to ask business from them. The next thing is get answers to the database questions. I showed you those database questions. Who did you work with? What did they do well? What do you wish was different? If you're going to hire someone today, what's your process of hiring? So you start to find out, I got a 1A person that there is no way, no how they're ever going to work with me based on relationship, but I got a shot for value. I think that they would at least take our fee for service model and make someone price match it. And if they don't price match it, they may come back to us. At least you knew where you stood with them, right? So that's why I would say that you need to be asking those questions from your database. The next thing is choose 3 groups and organizations to be a part of. This is build your personal board of advisors and then decide on your gift mailer. Is there a gift that you want to start to send out to your top 50? Is there a gift that you want to start to your past clients? So there's a huge list of how to build your foundation. You may say, John, that's just too overwhelming. I cannot do all that. Fine. Pick 3, pick 5, pick 7. Eventually, as you mature in your business and you start to get momentum, you're going to have this entire thing done. I mean, this is going to be really easy and lightweight for you. It may take some time to get going, but at least you know exactly what needs to get done. There has been a bit of redundancy throughout the last 2 days intentionally because what you do, when you do it, how you do it, and when you do it, there starts to be like, hey, you already said that back here. But I want to speak, this is the calendar vein. This is the people vein. This is the tool in the what to do, like the phone, the email. This is what you do via email. So I tried to put it in each bucket, and then I tried to roll it into a framework. So as we end, there's a core value that we have here at Scout that has to be exemplified and to be lived out for this to be done in its entirety. And that is diligence. Diligence is about earning it. And so for diligence, you understand that anything that you desire, any goals that you have, any sales or income goals that you have is only going to come through hard work. You believe that you have to work the land. We talked about this yesterday about the cultivation. You have to work your land that's been entrusted to you. And you have to sow seeds in faith that it's going to produce a harvest. So in 3 months from now, the results of what you did this week are going to be evident. So you have to work the land and be a steward in the small things that God's given you. In 3 months, we're going to see what happens. And then from there, you have to give your all and produce great work with your team. So I hope that this has been helpful. I'm so excited about giving you this resource. We're actually sending it out to the printer to get it bundled and packaged. So we've got to get those delivered back. But when those get back, each one of y'all will be issued, and we're going to start to meet on a weekly basis. And this is representative of being scientific. Like this is the framework in its entirety. But you get to bring your ideas in art, in color, and you get to shape it any way you want. But this is going to give you such a solid foundation to build your business on. So thank y'all for this week. Thank y'all for showing up and playing full out. I know like Mark is on a flight right now to San Pedro Island, I think. And, you know, several people were out for vacation. When we planned this week, we didn't really think of 4th of July. It was what it was, so we decided to record it and we decided to put it out there so people could watch. But I did not want to cancel the week after we had it on the books for so long. But I just appreciate y'all being here, or if you're listening, thanks for being here. Thanks for playing full out. I hope there's been some benefit to you. This is going to change everything for you. So when we come back from 4th of July, you get your manual. This is what we're going to start to do on a weekly basis.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah, you're welcome.